Blue skies, soaring temperatures, the city of Adelaide in South Australia. Yes, we are ready to open once again the 2007 cycling season here down under. And that's the Tour down under. But first we start with the Adelaide Classic race. Now yesterday in the velodrome, Robbie McEwen stretched his legs to test them. And then came the team presentation, 14 teams led by Juan Miguel Mercado of Spain. And then coming on stage, last year's winner Simon Gerrans, looking very fit and very well, waving to the crowd. Of course, the man they're always afraid of, Robbie McEwen, the winner of 11 stages of this race. Well, I'm joined now by Paul Sherwen, my co-commentator. Paul, they do say, though, that Robbie has a touch of bronchitis.
Yeah, but you know, Robbie McEwen is a winner. He wants to try and win every time he goes out to compete, so he won't be far away from the win here this afternoon, I don't think. He will, of course, be challenged by Baden Cook, a former winner of the green jersey competition at the Tour de France, Hilton Clark of Australia, and never discount local boy from South Australia, Stuart O'Grady.
All right, before we get to the start of the Adelaide Classic, let's see what the riders have to say.
I always try. I mean, I wouldn't line up if I didn't think I could win, but you know, I've got to be honest with myself and everyone else and say I'm not 100% in condition. I still got a little bit of lingering bronchitis, which I hope will go away over the next couple of days. But you know, tonight's a very hard and fast race. But if I can get near the front and it comes down to a sprint, then I'm going to try my hardest. And when I do that, then I'm always going to be fairly close.
Well, you're a man thinking about the overall victory, but this is really a night about the sprinters. A little bit scary down towards the end?
I think it gets a little bit hectic for the sprinters up the front there, but I won't be getting involved in any of that. I'll just be rolling around tonight and basically getting warmed up for the week.
Well, there's just a selection of the riders. There are, in fact, 112 riders in the field, 20 nations represented, and they're all on 14 teams of 8 riders per team. Let's have a look where we are. Obviously, we're in South Australia, tucked away in the beautiful city of Adelaide. This is the route they face. This is on the east end of Adelaide, start and finish in Rundle Road, and then off we go into Bartels Road, racing down through Duquetteville Terrace. And as the riders complete the loop, slightly downhill, they'll swing back into Rundle Road and race through the finishing line. It's a 2-kilometre circuit. The Honourable Mike Rann, Premier of South Australia, will start them. And this is a tense moment as the riders now get set for 25 circuits of 2 kilometres a lap. And I guess Robbie McEwen is the man to beat. He's the fastest sprinter in the world. But there are plenty of riders at this time of the year, Paul, who will take him on.
It's always very difficult to judge the first sprint of the season because all of these riders, yes, they've been training very hard throughout the inter-season period, but they don't quite know what their form is like.
Well, there he is, taking them around the corner very gently, getting the feel for the circuit. It is very, very hot, but you know what? The forecast is to steadily get cooler once the Tour Down Under gets underway with stage 1 tomorrow.
I think the riders will be happy about that, but this evening they will rise to the occasion. They love riding these city centre circuit races, and you can see a massive crowd out there already encouraging the guys. We'll get an idea, I think, Phil, very early on just how good Robbie McEwen actually is, because we'll see how his team responds to the early attacks which are bound to happen.
Well, bronchitis is the scourge of a racing cyclist. When it comes, it is obviously very restrictive on the breathing. It does go away, but he is on antibiotics. The first set didn't work, so he's trying a second set as of yesterday. Cheers all the way around the circuit here, because this big crowd on the big screens can watch the race all the way around, so there's no need to stay in the home straight. And again, we are talking of 60 to 70,000 spectators. Well, they're letting McEwen cook in the late evening sun here, and still at this time of the evening, it is running between 37, 38 degrees Celsius. And so it won't be long before somebody has a go. Let's have a quick look at the teams, and here they all are. AG2R CSC Predictor Lotto's McEwen's team. Carrying on, Milram is here. They're headed up by Baden Cook. Navigators back in from the USA. Bowler World the first time from South Africa. Uni-SA won the team prize last year. New Zealand have a full team here too. There's a nice visage there of Robbie, surrounded by possible rivals.
Well, in a 5th position there in the red and white, one of the riders from Team Barlow World, Enrico Degano. He's a man who's got a very powerful sprint down towards the end of races like this. There he is. And he is a rider who may also come up with a surprise victory. Team Barlow World, a South African team, have got some very good sprinters. They're led here by Robbie Hunter, who for the first time in his career, Phil, is actually riding for a South African team.
And he's delighted. Now, that was Peter Gilbert who has led that attack. He quickly was jumped on. And Agri-Turbo again, who have already attacked once, have now tried to make another move here. So they have come out with a little bit of a plan today. As he shoots off into the distance, we're on lap number 4.
And you see the main field just slowing down a fraction. That's always a very dangerous moment. Two more riders scrambling across the gap here. They've seen the danger of this. And of course, you can see the young riders from SouthAustralia.com always present, Phil, in the early parts of these races and always trying to get into the move.
The SA.com AIS squad is really the nursery team for the Australian top young riders coming through, and they started last year. It's a full professional outfit and they've got some good young riders on this team, I'll tell you, and we're seeing them now already passing on onto other pro teams this year. 4 riders getting together. Looks like Jeremy Hunt's getting himself in the mix there, Paul.
Well, they're all being very attentive, trying to make sure they can keep themselves up towards the front there. It was, in fact, Jeremy Hunt, number 64, in the pale green and white jersey. Jeremy always rides well in Australia. He's been here, in fact, since October. He's got an Australian girlfriend, and he may well be looking for the win. You've watched him a couple of times over the last few weeks, and in fact, I was a little bit shocked when I saw the first printout of the start sheet because it said Jeremy Hunt Australia. I asked him last night. He said, no, I haven't changed yet.
No, he's still got himself a British racing license, but just a little bit of luck is all he needs for a big win, because he came so close on a number of occasions last year. Rider we're talking about, third man in line here with his mouth wide open, and why not? The pressure is really on as they try to prize this group away, and in fact it's a Kiwi who's got himself onto the back of this group. You're hearing the bell there, which takes them out for what is the first sprint of the day. These sprints are just for a few bob in the bank, because, as I said, this is a self-contained race, but we might see some action from these riders. It will be a class move for Jeremy to take this one. 5 of them clear. He's second wheel around the hairpin.
Well, they've got a good 10 or 12 seconds advantage. Looking very concentrated there, Jeremy Hunt in second place, taking up the acceleration. You may just have noticed he looked across to the left-hand side. That was to see what the front end of the main field looked like. He wanted to know who was chasing and who wasn't.
I just see there's Benoit Sinner, who is the rider from Agra Turbo in that light green and white colour. He was the man that started this move. He slipped back to second from back just for the moment.
Well, the Kiwis have got a man in this leading group, robbed just a little bit before the start from one of their top contenders, I think, Hayden Roylston. He had a little bit of a heart problem just before coming across here to ride this event, and he would have been a man certainly to account for the overall victory here.
Useful little group this. It's got a chance because there are 5 riders, each one on a different team, which now means there are 5 teams in that big peloton. That's the big pack behind. And there could be another rider coming across here for Uni SA, and if it is, that's a 6 different team, leaving 6 teams wanting to slow back that big field, and that's why they have now gone across the road. They're trying to slow it down and give the men a chance. Hunt is leading the charge up the home straight here.
Well, looking at the main field, you see how they're spread right out across the road. That's an indication that there's no real pressure on. Nobody's yet decided to lift up the pace and chase these riders down to the line, and that will give them the advantage, Phil, to pick up their lead to around about the 30 or 40 seconds. Hunt sitting in the middle there, maybe thinking longer term here this afternoon and not thinking about the short intermediate sprints.
The the SAAustralian.com riders AIS on the far right. That's Miles Ullman, former junior world champion here, and a real class act for the future, who is the rider who's come up for the Australians. Big tall man. He's in that group of 5. The poor old guy in the middle from Uni SA is trying to reach them. He's having to work very, very hard now as the riders continue to make the move here. And the other rider who's also got into this front group is Gianpaolo Schuler from Barlow World, and he's a very fast sprinter.
He certainly is. He, in fact, was supposed to ride a big event in South Africa towards the end of last year and crashed just beforehand, breaking a small bone. In fact, they didn't even contest that sprint there, Phil, but Schuler is a rapid man, and it's good to see him riding again. Now, look at that gap. That, I would say now, is measured out to be around about 20 seconds, and still nobody's taken the responsibility at the front end of the main field to chase this out. See the faces of the riders in that leading pack of 6 now, Phil. They are starting to show a little bit of that sign of agony as they try and gasp in this very hot air here in the centre of Adelaide.
They've been out a long way. Remember, it was a flurry of attacks before they got away. The belly is ready, but this is the sprint on lap 10 here now, and they got away on lap number 3. So they've been away a while, and the pressure has been on because they've not really got away from the race. The man that started it all there, Benoit Sinner, he's the man taking them around the corner, followed by Goodsell of New Zealand. Then comes Hunt of the UK. He rides for team Unibet.com. And then comes McLaughlin, always wanting to get to the front. Miles Ullman second from the back, and the last man, for the moment at least, Gianpaolo Giulia of Italy.
Those corners, that hairpin bend the riders went round there, are very violent in a circuit race like this, because you come to an almost dead stop and down to 30 kilometers an hour, then the acceleration back up to 60 kilometers an hour starts to get just a little bit violent towards the end of the night. Jeremy Hunt now coming to the front using a fairly big gear, going around that sweeper. Well, it came down to 10 seconds, Phil, but it looks like it's starting to stretch out once again. 12 seconds as the main field comes, and they've actually started to slow down once again. There is not an organised chase here at all.
No, there isn't, and I'm a little bit wondering why, because that's the green colours of the French Crédit Agricole team, and they don't have a rider in that leading group, so it's down to them really to come and do some of the work. Maybe they're saying, well, okay, it's down to the rest as well, and they're not doing anything. So that's what happens in cycle racing, and what has happened, well, it may be the foreshortening by the camera there, but it looks as though they're gradually beginning to haul them in. Still there's a sprint this time. I don't think they're going to bother, and again, Schuler is going to make sure he's got the money in the bank. I think, is he? He's not far. Oh, no, it's a bit far down that straight. Perhaps he won't be the first rider this time as Hunt goes over the top of him. Then comes Miles Ullman. Ullman's having none of it. This young professional is going for the money, and Benoit Sinner says, oh, no, you're not. But he's lost it, in fact. Sinner, who started the break, gets the money.
Well, he deserves to. He's the man who started this breakaway here this afternoon. But just looking at the way these riders are getting themselves organised in this leading group of 6, it seems, Phil, as if they've lost a little bit of their organisation and their impetus. I think right now they're starting to see the writing on the wall, and they know the teams of the sprinters will get themselves organised and probably will pull these men back into the fold.
I think they're snapping at the heels now. There'll be a reshuffle here. McLaughlin's having none of it. If anybody wants to come, it's time to break again, I think. Where does he find this strength from? They're just about wrapping it up, and then he's pushing the pressure on. He might take a new group away here.
Well, that's what he's looking for. He knows that the best moment to attack is just at the point when a breakaway is caught, because that's when riders tend to lower their guard. They try and grab a sigh of relief to say, ouch, that was extremely hard, but let's go again.
Now, what will happen? Who's going to launch another attack? These boys have got the bit between their teeth now. They're not going to let this race lose its impetus because they've caught the breakaway. I think that's a rider from Navigators having a dig at the front right now. It is. And there's plenty of people coming up, a new group of people here, and it looks as though Gene Bates might be coming across as they get themselves together. We've got Jongewaard, who is the fourth wheel. He was second in a terrific battle in the Jayco Sun Tour at the end of last year. As they come off that bend, they're trying to control. Some are trying to maneuver this breakaway clear, and others are trying to be part of it.
Well, they're all over there. I just caught a glimpse of probably the smallest rider in the race trying to come across there, Samet Dumoulin from AG2R. He has now got himself into this new leading group. I think that was Viktor Rapinski, the rider from Navigators, their national champion of Belarus, who was the instigator of this little flurry of action.
Jongewaard on the front at the moment, this big, strong former mountain biker. He went to the Olympic Games as a mountain biker, and he's now a great road rider. And that's him diving around in the wheels as they try to get away. There's little Samuel Dumoulin. He is a powerhouse, the pocket rocket, the original one, I think. Look at the size of him. He's such a small guy, but boy, he can pedal that bike.
Now they've got themselves an interesting little group off the front once again, and it looked as if another rider from Bouygues Telecom was being attentive, and I wouldn't be surprised if again that was that man Laurent Brochard, because he probably can feel the race better than anybody else in here. And just getting onto the back there, let's have a quick look. It is Laurent Brochard. Well, he's going for it. The reason, Phil, he's come out to race here in the Tour Down Under was he had a very nasty accident towards the middle of last season and actually fractured a vertebrae in his neck. And at 39 years of age, you've really got to get back into the sport as quickly as possible. That's why they brought him down here to the Tour Down Under.
Well, now we have 13 riders in the breakaway, and they're looking a little bit confused here. Samuel Dumoulin is the rider who's getting on with the job in hand.
Danish champion, by the way, there, who scuttled across that gap was Lars Bak. He wears number 40. That's Dumoulin. He realizes this is a very good opportunity. But when the group starts to get too big like this, you get a number of passengers start to sit on the back end of the main field. It gets a little bit confusing and there's no cohesion in the group. But they have increased their lead. Just looking back there, it's around about 15 seconds.
two riders trying to get together would have a bit of a better chance here. Remember, there is a sprint for some money at the end of this, and that's why he's gone.
Well, 3 would be even better, and in fact Sami Dumoulin saw the danger there and he was trying to get himself across that gap.
It's
This is Nicolas Roach, yes. It's very strange. You know, I always want to call him Nicolas, but it's because he's grown up for the most part of his life in France, but his father, rather a famous Irishman by the name of Stephen Roach.
Yes, winner of the World Championship, the Tour of Italy and the Tour de France in the same year, 1987. One of only 2 riders ever to have achieved that feat. No prizes for the other one. It is, of course, the legendary Eddy Merckx. Well, Nicolas is in the middle of these 3 now, and he's got Samuel Dumoulin with him and a Chocolat Jacques rider with him, and I think that is Glenn Dolland who's tagged on.
Watch out.
Somebody shot off to steal the money here from the other side of the road, and nobody has countered the move, and this is Gene Bates who's going to take out the money for what is it, SA.com AIS.
Well,
Gene
that was a move. That was a serious move. The gap was formed, the gap was established, then all of a sudden Gene Bates, very much like he has done in the past, hounded out of the pack there, came across to those riders, didn't even give them a chance at all. There he is, right in the middle. Nice move for him, money in the bank.
All of these riders in the pink are the teammates of Robbie McEwen. Nick Gates 4th in line, shouting the orders. McEwen last in the team, going around the corner. That's it, the flag is out now. They've been told to bring this breakaway back.
It's going to be a big sprint, I think, for the finish line at the end of the race, Phil, because there's a number of teams getting themselves organised. Team Barlow World were grouped in one lump on the left-hand side of the road. Team Milram were bunched over on the right-hand side of the road. Right in the middle, you've got Robbie McEwen's Team Predictor Lotto. They're all, I think, just waiting. Look at that organisation down the right-hand side, the red and white jerseys. Though you can see in about 4th position in that line there is, of course, Robbie Hunter, the South African.
Yes, and that's why they're trying to organise themselves in case it all goes wrong for little James Perry, who's in his first season with Barlow World at the front. Milram still in those light blue jerseys. If that's going to be finished off, it should be Brett Lancaster who would deliver the killer blow. He's not been used yet. This is Julian Dean, the champion sprinter, and he really is a fast boy from New Zealand. And with him, another fast sprinter from South Africa is McEwen. They're starting to get a little bit excited.
Well, if Julian Dean has come to the front so soon, I think you're probably right in your prediction. A little earlier on, he'd be looking after Mark Renshaw. I remember watching Mark Renshaw race in the Goodwill Games way back in the year 2000. That was in Brisbane, and he was unbelievably rapid. Had a very good end to the European season last year, and he's had a very good start to the Australian season this year.
He has indeed, and this race has gone so quickly this evening. There is the catch now, and Hunter is first over the top of the Predictor Lotto riders to get up to these boys. So Robbie Hunter is trying his best now to sort this one out for the Barlow World.
Well, Robbie Hunter took that. He really has got the acceleration, but that, Phil, to me, is showing your cards just a little bit too soon.
Well, I have to say that is a crafty bit of sprinting by Robbie Hunter. He just got up in time. Now he's told everybody he's on form and he can sprint tonight, because the rumour was Hunter is looking for a result in the early weeks of the season. Here is a nice look at this now. Watch him come from the back. He saw his chance. He realised the catch was imminent. Couldn't wait for James Perry, who he shot up and took it for the team and himself.
You could say, look, just like a cheetah there waiting to pounce. He's got an incredible position, and the position at the moment, Phil, is indicating to me that Robbie is on form, and that's not a surprise because we've seen him over the last number of seasons really start the year off well. But to me, last year he was magnificent in the Tour de France in the mountains, where he rode up alongside Floyd Landis, which is remarkable for a man who really has made his reputation as a sprinter on the flat races.
Geraint Thomas is the young man here. This kid's only 20 years of age. He's been a world champion. He's got a chance on a big pro team now. He's a British rider racing for the South Africans, and you can see his natural speed, because this is what took him to a World Junior Pursuit title. Look at this.
Very fast indeed. This man can keep this pace for a long period of time, and what he's trying to do is stretch out the front end of the main field to make it as unconfusing as possible for the sprinters. He'll probably pull off with around about a lap or even half a lap to go, and then leave somebody else to try and take his man Robbie Hunter to the line. Hunter there in 3rd place. Right up now there into about 6th or 7th place is Stuart O'Grady. I've lost sight for the moment of Robbie McEwen, but Baden Cook is still right in there.
Everybody wants to to win this stage. Look at the teams organising themselves. The riders in blue and black, that's the new colours of the Navigators team from America, and they have a big sprinter in Hilton Clark as well, who's an Australian, and they're all trying to get to the front. Geraint Thomas has done all he can do now and has dropped off the front. Grady, the French team, they're looking to get the victory here for Mark Renshaw. They know he's on form too.
Well, O'Grady is locked up here in about 5th position, but not far away from his back wheel is Baden Cook. Cookie is looking very hot. There is O'Grady over to the left-hand side now, and on his wheel is Mark Renshaw. All of the big names now, Phil, are starting to move up to the front. They're all getting themselves ready, waiting to hear one thing. They're waiting to hear the sound of the ringing of the bell, which will indicate to them 1 lap to go. Rodriguez has got a problem there. It looked as if Rodriguez was moving forward there for Robbie McEwen, and he locked up his chain.
There he is. He's dropped right out of it on the far right of the road. That's not good for Robbie McEwen right now.
But Robbie McEwen is still up there in about 5th or 6th position. That's the sound they've been waiting for, the sound of the bell. 2 kilometres to go.
2 kilometres to go. CSC are trying to destroy themselves here to bring Stuart O'Grady to the line, or maybe even Luke Roberts. They did a 1-2 in the South Australian national titles a couple of weeks ago, and it was advantage O'Grady on that occasion. The field going round the hairpin for the last time, a fast acceleration away. These are what we call the domestiques, the pacemakers, the men who are here to try and lead the sprinters to the line. Kurt Attle Arverson is the man on the front, a former world champion, and he's trying to get O'Grady to the line.
O'Grady's right up there in 3rd place. Baden Cook's looking for his wheel. Mark Renshaw is right up there as well in the dark green and white jersey of Grady Agricole. They're all rubbing shoulders. O'Grady's not ruffling his feathers at all yet. He's waiting for the last possible moment. I can't see Robbie McEwen, but you never see him till the last 200 metres.
And let's not forget, we're seeing the white jerseys there of Australia. Well, that is the Australian UniSA squad, and they are looking for Alan Davis, who is another sprinter, picked up 2 stage wins in the Tour Down Under last year. So at this moment is who gets it right gets the winner.
Well, you've got to be calm now. You've got to have nerves of steel if you're a professional sprinter. Robbie Hunter scuttling up the outside over on the left there, trying to get himself into an ideal position. Stuart O'Grady now, he knows this race very well. He knows this finish. He knows this streak. But there on his shoulder is arch rival Cookie and McEwen.
Paul, this could be a finish of the Tour de France. Baden Cook, Stuart O'Grady, Robbie McEwen are all together the 3 greatest sprinters in recent Tours de France, and they're locked in for the finish.
Well, Hunter's in 2nd now. Up into 3rd place is Baden Cook. Stuart O'Grady's locked onto Cookie's wheel now. They're starting the sprint, and it's Hunter leading them out.
Well, this is it. Hunter's committed now. He's got to go for it as he races to the line. He's leading Cook on his back wheel. It's an awful long way down. And he looks over his shoulder, he brakes, and then he'll see it a long way to the finish as the charge starts now. And it's going to be every man for himself. The white is Baden Cook. It's going to be anybody. Cook, he looks as though he's going well. McEwen is trying to come through. Don't think he can make it through at the moment. It's going to be, and on the line, it is Mark Renshaw, I think. Renshaw it is who comes through on the inside and snatches victory. And what a victory that was, because I tell you what, it'll be a long, long time before you see a build-up and a great sprint like that again. Mark Renshaw comes around the corner. Let's have a look. This was a real battle. The Navigators on the far right tried to intrude, but they got washed away as Baden Cook thought he got it. Then keep taking your eyes left, because Mark Renshaw, he was the man who timed it to perfection. All right, well, let's go down and talk to him now. He's with Paul Sherwen.
Well, Mark, that was almost a Tour de France finish. Robbie McEwen, Baden Cook, Stuart O'Grady, and you beat the lot.
Yeah, it sure was. I'm still pinching myself. Don't know if it's a dream or not.
Well, Robbie McEwen said to me before the start, if you want to win this race, you've got to wait until the last possible moment, because it was a slight headwind finish, and you got it just right.
Yeah, that's right. Coming into one of the last corners, or the second last corner, I thought I'm in a bit of trouble. I'm too far back, but I managed to pop onto Robbie's wheel, and then I was fighting with Hilton Clark, and I kind of went slow-mo for the last 300 metres, and I timed it perfect and just got the run down the right-hand side.
Yes, and Mark Renshaw, just 24 years of age, he's set for a big season. In fact, the Australians sweep the 5 places. Hilton Clark it was, another favourite in 2nd place. Simon Clark, no relation, is 3rd. McEwen has to be satisfied with 4th this year. Alan Davis 5th. And by the way, the best foreigner was the Frenchman, the veteran Laurent Brochard. He took 7th place. On the podium, Mark Renshaw, is the winner tonight, but now he faces up to the Tour Down Under in its 9th year and 5 days and 670 kilometres. And boy, he is ready as he salutes the crowd. This is Mawson Lakes, a reclaimed marshland, now a thriving township outside of Adelaide in South Australia, playing host now to stage 1 of the Tour Down Under. Hello everybody. Well, really, this race got underway yesterday with a prelude, a race around the streets of Adelaide, and what a sprint finish. And in the end, Mark Renshaw taking it out. It could have been a finish of any stage of the Tour de France because the stars are here. Well, alongside me is Paul Sherwen. Paul, it is a great race this, and it is by tradition the opener of the season.
It certainly is, and I think we have to look to the Australians to maybe be the men to take away the victory here. Simon Gerrans, last year's winner, he's looking fine. He's come with a very strong team, but I think the local people here in South Australia and in Adelaide would like to see Stuart O'Grady win. You know, he's won this race twice before.
Yes, and of course the weather at this time of the year in the favour of the Australians, I guess. All right, well, let's see what the riders have got to say before we pick up the action on stage 1.
Yeah, we'll be there. I think yesterday we saw that my team was up the front. We were trying as hard as we could. We tried to support our sprinter as best as we could, and that's basically the tactic throughout the week. We're going to be trying to be up the front, try to be as competitive as we can, give them as much hard work for other teams as we can, and try to obtain some sort of a result.
First race of the year, it's always a bit difficult. It's a bit of unknown how everyone's going, and personally, I'm not sure how my form is compared to last year. So I think time will soon tell.
Yes, of course. It's the first stage of the race, and it's always a very important stage. On a stage race like this, it's very often the first day that the overall standings are decided.
Well, the race starts here, right down in the far south of Australia. It's been home to the big riders now for 9 years. We're starting for the second time from Mawson Lakes over the years, making our way out towards the Barossa hillsides through Williamstown, and then we get down to Tanunda, where we go out on the circuit, coming back to Nuriupta and through Angaston. That's a big one. Then back through Tanunda, out we go again, then back in. This time we'll finish on the line. And the rollout from Mawson Lakes, 111 riders in the race. This is 152 kilometres. The Honourable Michael Rann, the Premier of South Australia, sees them on their way.
Well, not neutralised for very long, just about 1.5 kilometres at the start of the race, and everybody, I think, very happy to get out onto the open roads. Everybody, though, Phil knows on the opening day there's bound to be an attacks early on, especially from the young Australian blood.
Well, this is the scorched area of Australia. The sun has burnt it. There's been no real rain in South Australia since the month of May. I think we could count the spots that fell around 5 a.m. this morning, but they've gone away now. The riders are set to bake as they race into the Barossa. They've just got a short ride, neutralised formation before that flag comes in, being waved by the 1984 Olympic champion and organiser Mike Turter.
Well, moving out now of Mawson Lakes onto the open highway. I think everybody's very nervous on this first day because in the past, Phil, habitually the very first day has led to some very serious breakaways. In fact, one man, Patty Yonker, won this race on the first day with a long breakaway.
Indeed, he did. And you know, Paul, when it's a 5-day race, 670 kilometres, it's not a long way for top professional cyclists. They can't afford to make a single mistake. They must stay vigilant.
They have to remain very vigilant, keep an eye out. So it doesn't look as if anybody's decided yet to take out the battle flag, but I'm fairly certain that quite shortly, once the road starts to climb up a fraction into the hills around Adelaide, then the speed will tilt upwards.
Time to get to know each other for the long season ahead, I guess, and somebody's gone straight away here. Look like the jersey of one of the UniSA riders from Australia, as he's made a break. In fact, we're hearing it's Brett Aiken who's made a move. Well, Aiken won the sprint competition here in the very first Tour Down Under 9 years ago, and he is still racing, and next week he'll be 36 years of age.
Hard to believe it's a long time since he got that gold medal in the Madison Championships in the Olympic Games, but here he is out on the open road. And looking back, Phil, there's a small group of riders trying to get across to him. Now, this is the sort of dangerous move that can happen in the early kilometres. Now, if they join him, this could be a nice solid move.
Well, they're looking for a little breakaway. I would dread to think how many kilometres that Brett Aiken has trained over these very roads over his career. He's been to 3 Olympic Games. He's never failed to medal. And now he's got help coming up here. Well, the boy at the back there looks like number 111. Well, that'll be Gene Bates, who's coming up to the front. And the other one is the ever-aggressive Kiwi. That's Gordon Macaulay.
Well, Macaulay's had a very good start to the season. He's now looking to try and get himself into this breakaway. There he is. 131 is his number. A bronze medalist at the Commonwealth Games just 12 months ago. And he now has seen this as being a very good chance, and always aggressive here at the Tour Down Under. Gene Bates, I don't think there's been an edition, Phil, where he hasn't been out on the attack.
Absolutely. He's actually won the Under-23 award on 2 occasions. He's also been the King of the Mountains, and he's also finished 5th overall in this race last year. So he loves this race and never fails to show his mettle. 70 kilometres an hour as we gently descend here. Adelaide is now some 14 kilometres behind us.
Well, what's important, I think, to most of these riders, after 26 kilometres of racing, there's a sprint point where there are time bonuses available. On the first day of any stage race, Phil, it is always very important to try and get those time bonuses, because the race is often decided by seconds.
New team for Gene Bates is here. He's joined, in fact, the SouthAustralia.com AIS squad, having moved across from the LPR team in Italy. And they're working well together here. Just a little peek down the back there. No sign of the opposition. We're hearing they're about 40 seconds behind. As now it's all coming together here. They're on the time of the day up towards One Tree Hill. So we're 20 kilometres down the road.
Well, this is not the full main field, in fact, Phil. This is a smaller group of riders coming across. And look at all the riders from SouthAustralia.com AIS in there. They are very present. They are 45 seconds adrift at the moment. I'd like to see if the whole of the main field was there, because I don't think they were.
Well, they swept up the leaders and they're pushed on here. This is a very interesting group. There are a lot of boys in those mauve jerseys too from SouthAustralia.com AIS. Prepared to work here, willingly so, I think.
Well, they realise now it's very important to try and get those time bonuses. They're not too far away. I think we're looking at 4 kilometres to the first time bonus sprint of the day. This group, I think, is made up of around about 16 or 17 riders.
Well, Bates is still in here, and Simon Clark is the rider on the right. Bates is on the left, both on the same team. 2 very strong men looking for people to come out and play, I think, because there is a breakaway. It is 18 riders strong, and these 2 realise that this could be a big escape. Because a quick calculation, Paul, in the 18 riders, all 14 teams are represented. What's going on here?
Well, a little bit of a team tactical talk here. Obviously, Gene Bates a little bit more experienced. They're saying, hold on, this is a good move we've got going here. The main field, the peloton behind Phil, are stretched out in a big long line. For the moment, I think they realise how dangerous that 18-man group is. But the 18-man group has to stay together to form a large, solid group.
Well, this is a move here. This is the lead pack. There are 18, but they're going for the prizes along the road right now, and they're splitting up just a little bit here. Tucked in on the back there, that's Serge Powell's second-year pro for Chocolat-Jacques. He's a Belgian rider. Here comes the sprint. First big sprint. Looks as though Luke Roberts is having a go for it. They've moved right over to the crowd line here, and wily old Luke Roberts is allowing no one through. Ouch, a little bit of a protest from Bates. I don't think he'll win that one.
Well, he won't win that one. I don't think anybody changed their line. Just a slight gap back to the rest of the riders in this group, but I'm not sure if you noticed the man who went across in 3rd place there. That was Juan Miguel Mercado. Now, he is a serious bike rider.
Do you know what, Paul? Looking at the names in this breakaway, I suppose really he's the one big name that's made the escape of all of the riders. There he is now, near his camera. The man he's riding his first race here, Tour Down Under, and indeed his first ever visit to Australia. Here comes the peloton over the same line. They are 1 minute and 56 seconds back after 26 kilometres.
Well, that is massive, and I think the dangerous thing we have to worry about here, there's confirmation of that time gap, Phil. The dangerous thing is that every team in the race is almost represented at the front, so I'm not really sure who's going to chase these guys down unless they feel that they might not have their right man present.
Well, this could be a winning combination. It's an amazing thing to say so early on, but there are 14 teams in the race, and every team has a man in this leading group. So who is going to chase? There's Juan Miguel Mercado. He's very anxious to go through. The Australian on the far side, Carl Menzi, the Crédit Agricole. In green here is Yannick Talabardon. Some good names here, Paul, but the big names like O'Grady and Gerrans are not in this move.
Well, also Mario Ertz is in the move as well, a very seasoned professional rider from Robbie McEwen's Predictor Lotto. This is not him on the front. This is one of the other riders from that team who's moved up to the front end of the group. This is an incident at the back for back.
Lars back at the back. He had a chain off there. I think he jammed up, but he's got it free. He's about 300 meters back of the pack. He should get back, and the gap is growing all the time, so he's no good waiting for the main field. I think this group is moving clear of the race. He's got to get back in there.
Just looking at his hand, I think really just a little bit of grease getting onto his fingers. That seemed to me as if it was a normal incident that happens very often when you're changing gear at the bottom of a climb. He's up and riding safely now, but he wants to make contact with the rest of the riders in front, because the main field, Phil, are actually starting to lose huge chunks of time.
They're now over 4 minutes behind here at 33 kilometers. So there's no good waiting. This could be the move that might decide the first segment of this race. There's Bjorn Riis, the winner of the Tour de France in 1996, and now the owner of the CSC team. A little word in the ear of Luke Roberts, who, by the way, stole a 3-second time bonus at One Tree Hill in that sprint. So technically, he is the outright leader of the race right now.
Well, there's a lot of racing to be done before we get to the finish, and if a man like Bjorn Riis gives you a little bit of advice, well, you'd better take it, because he knows exactly what he's talking about. I think he'll be fairly happy with the situation. He's got 2 riders from Team CSC in the group. Probably a bit upset that Stuart O'Grady didn't make the move, but for CSC, they're in a position of power.
Well, this is the hill climb here now with a lovely name of Humbug Shrub, and it comes at 40 kilometers. An attack by Serge Powers. He's a youngster on the squad of Robbie McEwen. He's only 23 years of age. He's decided to strike out for victory. Victory at the top here will give him the leader's jersey in the King of the Mountains, and he's got a nice gap now. Looks like he's being chased by 1 rider from that leading group of 18.
Well, he's just gone past 200 meters to go to the finish line. It's just in amongst that gaggle of people there. There's the Australian Devil supporting him all the way to the finish line. But for Serge Powers, Phil, at the top of this King of the Mountains, he's going to get maximum points, and that'll put him way up there with a chance of getting the jersey today.
Super crowd on top of the hill, just over 40 kilometers. The police doing a magnificent job, as always, here in South Australia, guiding the Belgian rider towards the summit. As he comes up towards the summit now, he's being joined by a white jersey. That must be Gustav Larsson, who's got on the back of him, and that's the order over the top. So he is the first leader of the race.
Well, that was a sensible attack by him, Phil, just inside of the last kilometers. Got himself the points. Now, the best thing for these riders to do would be to sit back and wait for the 16 other riders to come up to them, because they need to keep working together.
And this is Paolo Longo of Barlow, followed by Nicolas Crosby of France. He's in 4th place. They should all regroup here, because they're building a very big lead over the field. They are still about 90 kilometers from the finish, but one has a feeling that the peloton are going to struggle today, because these riders are deciding the Tour Down Under at this moment in time. They're all together again. This is the big train now. These 18 riders clear from very early on today have built a lead into double figures, being spearheaded by riders from Belgium and Australia. 11 minutes, Paul, something like 60 kilometers into the race.
Well, this is a very serious move now. All the teams represented. As we look at the gap here, these riders now, I think, are going to try and figure out, Phil, how they can win this race.
A hop, skip and a jump here for the riders. 1 kilometre now to Williamstown, the second sprint bonuses of the day. Now look, they're only small, 3 seconds 2 and 1, but they're crucial at the moment amongst these leaders. Luke Roberts taking out the first one for 3 seconds, so technically of all of these riders, he's best placed now to pull on the leader's ochre jersey.
That's the funny thing about stage racing. At the end of the week, the decision is very often made by minutes, but over the first few days, Phil, it's made very often by a matter of seconds.
Well, good work here by SA.com, Australia's team here, because Gene Bates is up there now looking for a little bit of revenge, I think, over Roberts, who held him tight on the rails in the last sprint at One Tree Hill. Nothing wrong with that. It's just a tough professional bike race. Sat at the back there, the man that's got in early on the move, Gordon McCauley of New Zealand, and he's still there. Oh, they're saying 8 minutes at the moment is the gap. As we this is to the second rider on the road behind that big group, and this young man is still a long way ahead of the main field and in no man's land.
He is in absolute no man's land. He tried to get across. He almost came up to that leading group, but 18 riders, Phil, is a very difficult group of riders to catch up. 400 meters to the next sprint point.
Well, Simon Clark trying to help Gene Bates has done his bit, and he's dropped to the back, and his efforts caused a split in the attack here as they go for the sprint in Williamstown. They're racing for the small bonuses because it could be the deciding factor when they get down to the finish in Tanundra as to who pulls on the leader's jersey for tomorrow. Here's the battle on the left, and it looks this time as though Gene Bates, yes, as this time has got his revenge over Luke Roberts, who will get second. And it looked like Martin Elmager. I've never seen him ride so well early on, Paul. He was third.
Well, he's a man I think we can expect to ride a lot better in the latter part of the season. But, you know, he's just come onto a new team. He's trying to impress. A little bit of a laugh there by the two boys. First and second, and second and first in the 2 sprint points. That puts these two riders in exactly the same time if we were to stop the race now. But we've still got a fair way to go.
And let's not forget the winner today and the first 3 across the line also receive small time bonuses. There's no doubt now, though, that this lead is so big over the main field that the future winner of this tour for the next few days is going to come. That's Tanundra. Here we are now. A first time through the town, and they have a huge lead over the field. These 18 men.
Look at that young rider on the front there, Matthew Lloyd. He's just in front of his teammate Mario Ertz. Now, if you remember the Tour Down Under from last year, Phil, on the penultimate day over the Wollonga Hill, there was a very dramatic crash on the descent. It was Matty Lloyd who crashed, and now he's here at the front of the race once again. He could very well end up being the leader of Team Lotto tonight.
Yes, and that crash and the way he rode last year in this race led to the pro contract now with this team. It's a big break for him. He's only a young man, and this Predictor Lotto team, the team of Robin McEwen, who, by the way, is trapped many minutes back in the main field. This is his big chance here. He's a real danger. Maybe he'll turn the tables and win this race by the time we get back to Adelaide.
Well, these 18 riders now are building up such an advantage. I have a feeling we're looking at the top 18 riders in the overall classification, but they've got to remain very attentive because I feel a group of 18 riders is much too big, and I'm sure it will split down towards the finish.
A little bit of action. This is Nicolas Crosby of the Bouygues Telecom team of France, just trying to trickle off the front as the group stays tight together. I've not really seen any passengers here. CSC are well placed. They've got 2 riders in this breakaway. Patrice Diallo, well, he is a rider, but he's a motorcyclist over from France to look after the cameraman. Here we are. There he is.
Well, home from home here for Patrice. He's a very good motorbike cameraman. We've worked with him many places around the world, and this now is the front end of the main field. That's Baden Cook in the lime green shorts there of Unibet. But, Phil, the gap is massive.
Gap is massive, and job done here because the peloton have all got teammates up in that leading group now. It's up to that leading group to sort out the leader of the Tour Down Under for tomorrow's stage. Another hot day in the saddle, though they are still saying we might get some rain. Right now it is so hot here in the Barossa, I think they'd welcome that.
They certainly would, but for these riders it's a question of having to get themselves to the finish line this afternoon. They still have got to ride all the way. Now going further up, this is the leading group going down this magnificent avenue of palm trees. I have a feeling, Phil, right now these guys are going to start to think this is Gene Bates, number 111, slipping to the back. He's always a danger man in the Tour Down Under. And then just behind him there, number 28, is the man we were talking about a little earlier, Matthew Lloyd. Now, I think he's going to ride very well between now and the weekend.
Well, they've just started to get a little bit frisky at the front here now because they've realised the race is amongst them. There'll be nobody coming from the back to catch up with them, so they've got to start deciding who is the strongest of them all. And there's a lot of pressure going on here now as the pace lifts.
Well, everyone will start to get nervous. Once they've seen the big time gap over the main field, they won't want to really push it too much now. This is an important part of a race like this, taking on board drinks, taking on board food. You've got to keep those energy levels topped up at 92.5 kilometres covered. We're looking now at about 55 kilometres to go to the end.
Gustav Larsson from the Unibet.com team. He's through first at the front. All the time in the world, take on the food. Little bags get thrown away. The souvenir hunters will soon take those off the side of the road as the peloton comes through.
Unibet.com, the team that for many years, Phil, was actually registered in Belgium. In fact, look at the time gap, 15.5 minutes over the main field. Just to finish that story, Unibet used to be a Belgian team. They had to change their license to Swedish because of regulations concerning internet gambling.
This is the breakaway, and Simon Clark was leading, and now it's changed a little bit. This is Matt Lloyd at the front. They've seen that board, which must be music to their ears, at over 50 minutes. They know now nobody's coming up to this group today, and with a time gap like that, they're not just fighting out for the day's victory, they're fighting out the actual overall victory here of the Tour Down Under on day one, and they wouldn't have expected that at the start today.
Well, now's the moment when you've got to start thinking a little bit longer term. Yes, 1 or 2 riders in that group will be thinking about the victory, Phil, but the other guys have got to start thinking about the overall victory at the end of 5 days of racing.
Back into Tanunda here, riders all together. Now beginning to try and assess just who is the strongest of them all. And the crowd here, they'll be a little bit bemused that the huge time gap has been built, but the combination was right. Every team has a rider up front, and when that's the situation, who is going to chase?
Well, 18 rides in the leading group, 14 teams representative. It was really a recipe for success for the breakaway this afternoon, but again, it looks as if there's a slight break in this group.
Carl Menzies here. I saw him race in Victoria, which is a little bit of a way from South Australia. He's a strong boy. He got a bronze medal in the Road Race Championship a few days ago.
Well, Lars Bak is in there as well for Team CSC. Matthew Lloyd is in here. These 5 riders now, Phil, have got a very sensitive advantage over this group. And now you can see they're not really organising the chase. Now, this could be dangerous.
Well, they keep coming back together, then somebody else finds the legs to launch another attack. We expected this because they're not going to take 18 riders down to a sprint finish. There's 1 or 2 very good fast finishers here. It's split again, and another group of 5 trying to get away. Sitting at the back is still Gordon McCauley. I think he's paid for the very early effort he made coming out of the start at Mawson Lakes. He's done well to stay with this group.
Well, he's done well to be in the leading pack. A very experienced rider, just holding on at the back there now. Looking at this leading group of 5 riders, they are all working well together. The man who's got in here for AG2R is Martin Elmiger. He could be a danger man later in the week.
Big workhorse on AG2R. Tour de France rider. Somebody's gone down the inside there. It looks as though it could have been Luke Roberts who launched an attack. Certainly CSC. Quickly onto his wheel there is Matthew Lloyd marking everything. 68 is Gustaf Larsson. These boys are looking for the move right now.
Well, this is starting to get a little bit nervous and a little bit tactical. In fact, it was Lars Bak there, number 14, who's looking for the move. I think, in fact, the other rider from Team CSC, Luke Roberts, has been caught out in the crossfire.
Well, they've definitely split here. This group currently is in 3 small bunches across the road. Look at the long straight here as we're into the last kilometre. You can't see it, but right on the brow of that hill, they will see the banners. Now, when you come to the finish in Tanunda, there are 2 bridges across the road. You've got to get it right, and there's somebody gone, and that's the boy from
Matthew Lloyd.
Matthew Lloyd from Predictor Lotto. Good effort. The man that had such a rough ride last year, now on the big teams, is trying to take this one out. A win would give him the ochre jersey.
Well, he's being nailed back a little bit there, but there's no organisation. There's no real reason to chase, and this could be the winning move for Lloyd here. This is a nice move by this young man who crashed out last year, but look at that move there. This is Menzies.
Well, Menzies has said enough is enough. An Australian tracing an Australian, but these boys are professional on different teams. Uni SA is the team of Menzies, and that was the victorious team overall last year. He's gone over the top, and he's going to keep it going. Well, the others have hesitated. He might pull this off.
Well, that was a good acceleration. Didn't wait at all. Now he's still got the gap, but the rider from AG2R is closing onto his wheel.
Well, he's going to win this, and it's Martin Elmiger, the Swiss rider, who's chasing him down, but I think he's done enough. He's under the first banner. Now this is the one that counts, and he's got this, the best win of his career. Carl Menzies, the Tasmanian, gets the victory against the odds, I think. Elmiger gets second. I think it's back there, come over in third.
That was a superbly timed comeback there for this man, Phil. Just third a couple of days ago in the Australian National Championships.
Well, that should be enough for the ochre jersey for Carl Menzies. Here's the battle now, best of the rest. This will be for 6th place here. And starting the sprint there was Luke Roberts, but he's been bettered now by Paolo Longo of Barlow World. And now it looks as though Gene Bates is going to have a go. As he comes to the front now, Gene Bates is heading for the 6th place. Nearly 45 seconds has gone by. Bates gets it. He'll be ahead of Longo, Talabadon and Luke Roberts in that order. Poor old Bates, really unhappy about that. He knows he had his chance today in the attack all the way from when the gun went off. But the man that scored best of all, Carl Menzies, he's the new leader of the Tour, that's for sure.
Yeah, like we thought it might go down early, so we all had to be up there, but that first little climb before the KOM was definitely a lot tougher than what most expected, I think, and that's where the group went, and that was it for the day. That was just rolling around in a group, and then the attacking started about 30 k's to go, and then 5 of us left. We worked 5 of us left at the end, and we all worked all the way to the line, and Lloydie had a good jump up the road, and I was just able to come over the top of him and hold off the other guys.
Well, what a great opening stage for 18 riders in the Tour Down Under. They have decided the final destiny among them of this 5-day race for sure, as the main field finishes over 26 minutes behind, and it's a Tasmanian, Carl Menzies, who steals the glory. He races for the American Health Net team during the season, by the way, but this time around he rides for Uni SA. He wins in nearly 4 hours in the hot saddle today, and that's a good result by Martin Elminger. Lars Bak gets third, Matthew Lloyd is in fourth place, and Gustav Larsen in fifth. That's the jersey they race for. You'll see it easily tomorrow, and they continue and the race beneath the hot sun on stage 2. I hope you're enjoying the coverage of the Tour Down Under. For Paul Sherwen, I'm Phil Liggett saying we'll see you on the hot roads of South Australia tomorrow. Goodbye. Has taken McEwen. This was a tandem victory. Eddie's coming through with all the wheels. A desperate finish. And this is the beautiful riverside town of Mannum on the banks of the Murray River, one of Australia's greatest rivers. We are, of course, in the state of South Australia, and this is stage 2 of the Tour Down Under. I'm Phil Liggett, joined here by my co-commentator Paul Sherwen. Yesterday, Paul, a most surprising race, 18 riders getting clear and putting nearly half an hour into all of the favourites.
Well, I think everybody expected a move on the first day of the Tour Down Under, but it came so early on after just 15 kilometres. And that leading group of 18 riders, I think the important thing was, Phil, that all of the teams in the race were represented. So there was nobody left behind to chase, and it really caught out the favourites.
And when it came down to the finish, it was indeed Carl Menzies taking it out, a Tasmanian. So the Aussies struck gold, even though they had a lot of European opposition. Well, today, it's the second day, and I'm just wondering now what the riders will do, especially the favourites, to try and put matters to rights.
Well, I think what we could very much see happen is a lot of attacking going on. A lot of riders now realise they're more than half an hour behind in this race, so what they will try and do is get some individual glory. Guys like Stuart Grady, Simon Gerrans from last year, they'll try and go out on the breakaway, but the 18 riders who were in the front yesterday, Phil, they've got to ride a very clever tactical race because they now have to try and win this race.
All right, well, let's see what the riders have got to say about yesterday.
Well, now it's really going to be a game of poker because one of those 18 men at the front is going to win this Tour Down Under.
Definitely, probably one of 8 guys. You know, there's a big enough split. I think after 2 minutes, it's pretty hard to come back from 2 minutes down now. So I think the guys within 30 seconds, the 8 guys within 30 seconds, and it's going to probably come down to the last couple of days. I know today it's going to be very aggressive at the start, and you know, but there's 100 guys we can let down the road, and there's 18 guys we can't. So it's much better odds for us.
I'm very happy. I mean, it's a pleasure to be here. It's nice. It's a fantastic atmosphere, and the race is nice. I mean, so far it's a safe race, that's for sure. It's nice. It's good organized. It has the structure it takes to be a big race.
Yes, Bjorn Riise, the 1996 Tour de France winner, enjoying his first visit down under. Well, the route today, 150 kilometres. Yes, there are plenty of undulations as we race over towards Lobethal, as we go through Tunkillo and onto Mount Torrens, eventually climb through Lenswood, and we'll finish up in Horndorf. Once we're there, 3 circuits around this beautiful German hamlet, and then we'll come to the big sprint in the centre of the town. But it's back to the start first, Paul, as the riders now get set to leave for the first time in the 9-year history of this race. A lovely town of I'm just pausing for the double barrel shot here because I'm wondering if they might call the false pulse start, but no. Jean Lomax-Smith, the Minister for Tourism, sending them on the way. Mannheim, it's goodbye. Next stop, Harndorf.
And it's a very difficult opening few kilometres for the riders because we climb away from Mannheim, and it's ideal for somebody to set up a long attack. As you can see, they're meandering away. It's still neutralised for the first couple of kilometres. That allows the riders to have a little chat with the colleagues and see how the race unfolded for them yesterday, because strangely enough, some guys didn't speak to any of their teammates for around about 150 kilometres.
No, because that's how long it was in the lead for those breakaway riders yesterday, and a gift in the end, eliminating a tremendous number of riders. So the tactics will change now. There'll be teams wanting to just keep riders in that lead in the overall classification. Martin Elminger, the former Swiss champion, is just a second off the ochre jersey on the far right there, being worn today by the winner yesterday, Carl Menzies. And the idea now will be to try and outwit Carl Menzies, but I think they'll wait a couple of days till we get down to the infamous climb of the Ulwalunga Hill.
Well, the advantage Carl Menzies has got, I think, Phil, is the fact that he's got a very strong team around him, but already on this first slope out on the open road, you can see a little bit of pressure appearing at the front end of the main field. In about 4th or 5th position, that looks to me very much like the shape of Stuart O'Grady.
Well, the pressure's gone on a little bit here. The landscape here changed. As you can see, the ground is totally parched here. We're living in a drought in South Australia, indeed in all of Australia. Not a pretty sight, really. The ground is very hard. No real rain here for many, many months. But the undulations here, it's a moonscape anyway, because we're in an area which is full of rocks and bare land. And it looks as though a man from Ireland, where there's a similar landscape down on the west coast too of that country. This is Nicholas Roach out on the move.
Well, Nicholas Roach doesn't have exactly the same pedalling style as his father. I raced on the team with Stephen Roach for a couple of years, and Stephen seemed to caress the pedals. Well, Nicholas is certainly looking like a very strong, punchy rider. He's got the advantage here. Crédit Agricole, the French team, though, Phil, have always been an aggressive team. It looks like he's going to get joined by another Frenchman there. Number 51 is Laurent Brochard.
Well, Roach himself, third-year professional now, so he's developing. Had a couple of wins as a pro, as there is a counter move, and this looks like Matthew Goss trying to get away for CSC. Bet your life that Bjarne Riis has given them a plan to work to today to try and get another man up in the overall lead. They've got two up there after that break yesterday. There's Brochard.
And it's hard to believe that it's back in 1997 that he was world champion, and that was in San Sebastian. He also took a very impressive win in the stage of the Tour de France through the Pyrenees on the road down into Loudonvielle. Now, this acceleration, Phil, is actually forcing a small group off the front of the main field.
Yes, and there's some useful riders getting into that group as well, Paul. I see Simon Gerrans is tagging on, last year's overall winner. Remember, yesterday, he certainly lost his chance to win this race overall again, but I heard him tell a journalist at the finish line yesterday he would now go looking for a daily stage win, and there he is, tacked right on the back.
Two riders in front of him is Stuart O'Grady, and just again somebody else is trying to get themselves a little bit further up the road. Now, this looks to me like they're trying to control the front end of the main field. But look at the faces of the riders already, Phil.
Well, there's the ochre jersey leader there at the front, but just look at the back here. Wesley Sulzberger is sitting here, and he looks like he's anxious to move across as well. In fact, that's Serge Powers in the King of the Mountains colours there. So he's probably the highest placed rider who's got himself into this front group, but he himself, towards the end yesterday, lost over 3 minutes.
Russell Van Hout there alongside the overall leader here, Carl Menzies. He knows he's got to be very attentive over the next few days. He's got 18 numbers, but as his teammate this morning, Matty White, said probably only 8 numbers that he really has to keep a very close eye on. And there's Matty White, seasoned professional, Phil, to have up alongside him.
It looks to be about 20 riders trying to get clear of the field. We're around about 23 kilometres covered. They made a very slow start, but they've warmed up pretty quickly once we got to those little hills out of town.
Grady near the back of the group. He's probably quite happy with this. There's around about, as you say, 20 riders in this group, but Phil, they're not holding anything back. They know now if they can keep the pressure on for the next 5 or 10 kilometres, they could very well break the stranglehold of the main field.
I saw Baden Cook is in here. There's Brochard racing through. This is a good breakaway. There's Stuart O'Grady on the back, smarting a little bit deep down, I'm sure, on what happened yesterday as far as he was concerned.
It's Matty Goss just going to the back. The CSC team have got a whole host of enthusiasm for him for the future.
Well, they look to me as though they split away again from that 20-man group. This is another little group here trying to get away. 600 metres to the first point of the day. This is in Tunkillo, taking us through 26 kilometres. Brochard is there again in that blue jersey, remarkable rider, and they've split that group right up. In fact, I think that was the peloton in the distance.
That was the main field just a little bit further down. It looks to me, in fact, Phil, as if it's splintering off the front. These riders probably not quite caught. There's Serge Powell's again. He wants to try and stay in this group because he's thinking a little bit further down the road to try and get himself some King of the Mountains points. But look at that acceleration coming from Brochard in the blue shorts.
And Wesley Sulzberger, one of the rising and fast rising stars of Australia, also at the back of this line right now. And somebody has taken a flyer here. What's the odds on it being Brochard? I wonder. It could well be.
Well, he is a seasoned professional, as you said, Phil. Not very far away from his 39th birthday. Looks over his shoulders. He's going to get himself a few points in the bag there and a 3-second time bonus. But I think he's intelligent enough and tactically savvy enough to wait for the rest of that group, because he knows he's not going to ride 150 kilometres on his own. He'll sit up now, I would expect, having got the points and the time bonus, and wait for the rest of the group.
But isn't it nice to see this man enjoying his opening to the season 2007 in South Australia? You're right, he's allowing them now to come up. He's taken a small prize, but the important 3-second time bonus. And the little group rejoining here, about 8 riders, I think. That's Salzberger on the back and having a little chat on the radio there too. Well, that's Matt Goss. So he's talking back there to Bjarne Riis to see what progress is like in this escape.
Well, Simon Gerrans in front there, wearing number 1 as last year's winner, but the main field now is starting to mass and get themselves organised at the front end. I think they realise that to try and ease the race for them, they've got to try and pull back that leading group of riders. AG2R at the front there, very much, Phil, in a defensive role, because they've got their man Simon Gerrans in front, and they will be happy with that.
Spain's Gonzalo has done the damage here to bring them all nearly together, and that's Yuri Kritsov. He's the teammate of Simon Gerrans. Far side of the road is Glenn Dollander, a regular here. He's also talking on his radio. There were these little radio two-way earpieces. They can talk to the cars behind, and the managers there will guide them through. Well, there's the pack going through. Not a lot in it, actually. Just about half a minute is the actual time gap here.
Well, on these big wide roads here, the main field will be able to just see up the road how far they are away from that leading group of riders. A lot of nervousness in the peloton here this afternoon. It's the Kiwis now, Phil, on the counter-attack.
And this is Tim Goodsall, who's a really strong bike rider and trying to move clear again. But look at this now. Looks like Robbie McLaughlin again. He's the teammate of the race leader. He's going to try and keep chasing down these men. He's got no real concern at the moment, because there's nobody in this group, unless they really have a great day and pull back something like half an hour, are going to catch that ochre jersey. There's another attack. Looks like, I think it was Gerrans off the back.
Well, Simon Gerrans really is going for it here this morning. He wants to make sure that this breakaway can succeed. He's got a feeling this is a good combination, and that's why he's gone again. He felt that they weren't going fast enough. In fact, he hinted to this morning, Phil, that he wanted to get out today, try and get himself into a breakaway and get a possible stage victory.
Well, they're only just ahead of the field. The field is trying to chase them all down here. There's a whole series of counterattacks here coming once again. That 200 marker. We're into the streets of Mount Torrens. Gerrans knows all about this town because it was the scene of the National Road Race Championship a couple of years ago in South Australia, but it was the Aussie titles and sprinting clear here. This is a rider from South Australia who gets over the line.
Just ahead of Laurent Brochard. Now you can see, in fact, it was Sulzberger. This kid is going to be a very good rider on the block in the next couple of seasons. A lot of people say big things about him. We're possibly looking at the next Phil Anderson of Australian cycling. He will be moving up to Europe later on in the year, but I tell you what, Phil, he's got guts to get in a breakaway like this.
Just look at all these colours. All these Australian jerseys at the front are members of the Uni SA team. They are the defending team champions as well from last year, but they're now thinking only of their race leader here, and they're working terrific. This is Mitch Docker here, Victorian rider, now riding for the Australian, I suppose we could call this the Australian national team here.
It almost appears to be. It's certainly a very big mix of huge talent. Alan Davis, Matty White, and of course Russell Van Hout going through there, local boy as well. Look at the way he's grimacing here. He knows how hard this is. He's ridden for European teams before. I'm not sure, Phil, if they're doing a little bit too much work early on, because nobody's really dangerous to them in that leading group of 8 riders.
And these riders have a little chat with each other, just checking out. Everybody's thinking on the same hymn sheet here. That's Alan Davis, terrifically experienced rider, won 2 stages last year of this race. Matt White, a Tour de France rider as well. He's going to help guide their A slightly less experienced leader here, Carl Menzies. We're on the climb now. This is the climb up to Lenswood. Lenswood, the town itself, is down below. But look at this. This is a tough climb, one of the toughest climbs I think we've seen in early stages before. This is Samuel Dumoulin. He's a 4-time Tour de France rider. He crashed out once with a broken arm, I think it was, but he finished the other 3. He's got to be the smallest guy in the race, Paul, and I reckon he's about 45 kilograms.
He is a very small rider, but he's not actually a well-renowned climber, but he is an aggressive rider. He's looking for the move here, looking over his shoulders to see whether or not he can break up the rhythm of this group, and that maybe is exactly what he's trying to do. He feels, I think, Phil, that the group behind him is a little bit too large for success and wants to reduce the numbers in it.
Well, they split on the climb. They came together on the climb, so the whole field was together at one point. It's quite a long climb. This is hairpins its way up. He's now clear. You can see by the size of the crowd, they've come out here early today. We're not too far away, really, from Kangaroo Gorge and a direct run straight back into Adelaide. But the way the boys are going today, they'll swing away from Adelaide and head off towards Harndorf. But at the moment, this is Dumoulin. He will go equal on top of the leaderboard with Serge Powell, who won yesterday. And he's going to keep it going all the way to the line, so he deserves that.
Well, he gets maximum points there. The rider chasing him is Sergei Lagutin, the national champion of Uzbekistan. And this is the front end of the main field now, just a little bit further back and very close to the front as well. Still present there is Stuart O'Grady.
And that's Hilton Clark, the navigator rider on the front, who seems to be developing into a little bit of a climber. I've seen him ride pretty well on the climbs. He rode well in the National Road Race Championships about a week ago on the climbs as well. So the field more or less together. Dumoulin is now the new challenge as they head off now towards the Finnish town of Harndorf, where the circuit will begin. Well, it looks as though Stuart O'Grady leading the charge here has pulled the group well clear of the field now, exacting perhaps a little bit of revenge on yesterday, Paul.
Certainly a lot of these riders lost big time yesterday, but what they're thinking about is before the end of the Tour Down Under, Phil, is to get a little bit of individual glory and possibly a stage victory.
The only climb of the day, or the only notable climb of the day, is behind them now as they race on towards Harndorf and the circuits here. This is going to be the decisive breakaway group. Some 21 riders have got themselves into this group. And the main field now, the last time check we got, was around about 5 minutes behind.
Yes, but I'll tell you what, Phil, the circuits around Harndorf are very difficult and selective as far as I'm concerned. Once you've gone through the main street, that little climb out of the main field is very difficult indeed. A great launch pad to try and split something up. Look at that, Harndorf today, bathed in glorious sunshine.
Yes, the freeway they drove up earlier today, running up there, heading towards the Murray Bridge. This is the arrival of the caravan that travels about an hour ahead of the race. And as always, Harndorf, this lovely German principality, is en fete, as they say. And here come the leaders making the way. And one team who's really triumphed in this breakaway today is the Belgian Chocolat Jacques team. They've got 4 riders up here.
They're in a very good tactical position here, having 4 riders present. That means they can cover a lot of the moves. Number 11 there, Stuart O'Grady. Certainly South Australia would like to see him get the win here this afternoon. But look at that, Phil, racked up behind him. 1, 2, 3 riders from Chocolat Jacques. And the last rider there was Stephen Kethoven, who is actually not a bad sprinter.
Well, this is the leading group, and they've thinned out a little bit. Quite a few riders have been dropped off the back. The back pack now is out of it for the day, that is for sure. They're dropping into double figures again, but it won't affect the overall. I don't think these boys can recuperate anything like the near half hour they lost yesterday. There's the peloton. So Carl Menzies will preoccupy himself at the moment in the ochre jersey, just keeping the eye on a handful of riders who could endanger his lead.
Yes, he just has to look at the riders who were in that move with him yesterday, and he has to rise sensibly. The important thing is not to forget that this is a 5-day race. It's the overall time at the end of 5 days which is important. But look at O'Grady here. This is the climb I was telling you about, just away from the streets of Harndorf. It's a good testing little climb here, and O'Grady's right up near the front.
Well, they're just coming up on Nicholas Roach there, who's on the attack right from the gun today. And this little climb has always split the leaders up. They've been up here before already. Hilton Clark having a little dig, and O'Grady keeping an eye on the Australians, trying to get their own back perhaps, but there's reinforcements on the way up. Gonzalo is the light green rider who's got up there. and the rider from Chocolat Jacques is linking up as well.
Well, their team orders, Phil, have got to be go with every split that happens here, because when you've got 4 men in a group like this, you really have to make sure that you don't miss out.
Okay,
Just tapping onto the back there, Peter Jacobs. Now, is this little group starting to establish or not? This is at the back of the field here.
This is Katoven. It looks as if he's had a little bit of a problem, but he's making his way up through the field of riders. In fact, what is happening here, Phil, I think the referees are stopping the cars towards the side of the road because they can see that this group is actually starting to come back together. This man may have had a little bit of an incident, but I think very shortly we'll just see in front. There's the rest of the group. He's going to make the junction.
And he makes it look rather easy considering this far into the race, and it's Benoit Sinner of the Agri-Turbo team who's coming across with him, so they're going to join the leaders again. The leaders, though, have reduced quite alarmingly here. We've lost about 8, I think, but this is very much the leading group re-establishing itself.
Well, that's a thumbs up. Thank you very much, mate. We've managed to get across the gap here. That indicates that Katoven here really, Phil, feels that this is a serious split. He'd missed out, but he's actually managed to ride across the gap. Need to get a few breaths, I think.
I would bet on that too. Well, Katoven's his 4th year as a professional rider now. He's had a few wins, especially in the first year as a pro in Belgium. And these boys know now, as they did yesterday, there won't be trouble by the main pack today at all. They're falling back, as I say, into double figures. Just moving up here in this little breakaway now is Gonzalo.
And Hilton Clark, again, their number 81, being very attentive in the black strip there of Team Navigators, the team from the United States. After this, he'll move away from Australian shores and go across to the Tour of California.
Look at this. That's Stuart O'Grady coming across. You know, Stuart has been on the attack. Every move today, O'Grady has got into the move. He knows he can't get the race overall now, so he's trying to make amends with a stage win. He's come on to the back of the group, and this is a very tortuous, very quick descent. You can expect 70-75 kilometers an hour here.
Tricky descent, a couple of nasty corners. He's seen the move and felt that this is possibly the split that's going to succeed. He's come onto the back. Sensible thing right now is take a few breaths on the descent, allow your heart rate to come down a fraction, and then start working with the group when we get to the flatter part of the course.
Hilton Clark too, yet to win a stage of this event, but also very sharp here for Navigators.
Did you see his face there, Phil? O'Grady really tried to get across this gap there. That is the face of the big days on Stuart O'Grady. Looking back over his shoulder there now, he wants to ascertain the situation, wants to know whether or not they've got enough advantage to go clear.
Well, this is the main field here, and it's almost a Sunday club run here now. Nobody willing to chase. Still, the leaders of the Tour, established yesterday, are in this group, the top 9 riders overall, and they are probably the men who can win this Tour. Only 9 of them in it, and they're safely in the pack. Here's Jonathan Clark of SouthAustralia.com, the AIS boys. He's trying to also bridge a gap here at the moment.
Well, everybody's trying to scramble on to a little bit of success here this afternoon. Just looking up the road there, you can see 1, 2, 3 riders, but behind it's all starting to come together. This is the chasing group trying to make contact with that group of 3 leaders. But what has happened, Phil, here is the pressure of this chase behind Stuart O'Grady has really split the group.
And they're out of sight at the moment. Here they are, running like rabbits just now, with that group reassembling behind, and they'll get themselves organised for the chase down to Harndorf. But right now, I'm not too sure whether Stuart O'Grady or whether we're just catching him always sat at the back, whether he's recovered from the big effort just yet.
Well, turning into the main street of Harndorf now, everybody's looking over their shoulders. O'Grady's starting to get himself ready. He's thinking about the possibility of a victory here this afternoon, Phil. Looking
right
back
behind, Paul.
It's got to be around about 10 or 12 seconds. It's not, it's less than that.
They're right behind, and they're messing about at the front, and that could prove fatal at 800 metres. Look at the snake as it's Nicholas Roach bringing the field up here together again. They've latched on to the back of them. What are we, 400-500 metres from the line? They're being forced to lead out. Gonzalo is now being forced to lead out. Clark doesn't want to go. He knows if he goes now, he won't get it, and O'Grady's right behind. The whole pack are there.
It is much too far to go. You've got to wait now. You've got to wait and see who's going to start the sprint, and it's got to certainly be one for Stuart O'Grady. Even though he's been caught, Phil, I'm sure he wants to get the win here this afternoon. He can't win the Tour Down Under, but certainly he's got a good chance to win the stage.
Well, the Chocolat Jacques boy is the rider in the middle who's opened up the sprint here. That is Peter Gillibert, and he's leading out Stephen Katoven. This could be a Chocolat Jacques 1-2 in the last 500 metres. They've jumped clear of the field. They caught O'Grady, Clark and Gonzalo, and this is the result. It's not often we see domination from Belgium in the Tour Down Under, but it's there now. Katehoven gets the win as Gillebert gets second place. Grady has got third place and Hilton Clark has got fourth. That is a tremendous ride by those two riders.
But it wasn't really a sprint, really, was it? It was more of a late attack that you put in.
Yeah, Peter Gillebert, he launched me, and behind me there was a gap. I don't know why, but yeah, it was easy for me.
But it's got to be his biggest win since he won a stage with the Tour de l'Avenir in France back in September 2004. Here's the group that were with that group, but they got dropped and they've come in some 7 minutes down, being led in there by Giovanni Bernardo, and just at the back there, Robbie Hunter of South Africa. So that group is in, and there's going to be a big wait now for the main field.
Well, the main field being led home here by Grady Agricole, but Phil, the time gap is a massive time gap. 17 minutes it's going to be when they cross the line.
And it's the Grady Agricole riders bringing them home. Yannick Talabadon is the rider at the front. Laurent Brochard also at the sharp end of the field. But there's no doubt that there will be no overall change, and Menzies is still in the Oka.
Tactically, a fairly sensible day for you. The guys controlled, and you've still got the jersey, no problems.
Yeah, I mean, today was all about the team. You can't do this without a great team behind you. So, yeah, that's that tempo there, kept that group at a reasonable distance, and yeah, left it the GC the same as it was, I assume.
A little bit grippy early on, though, because there were a lot of attacks going, and once the right combination of riders got clear, you just sat back.
Yeah, we've got 18 guys. I mean, you've got to keep your eye on everyone. So, you know, you've got to check numbers and all that, and there was a dangerous break there that the boys bring back there early on, and then you had to get over the climb. And then, yeah, then it settled all down. There was just tempo. I mean, a huge group up the road, but the boys rode awesome today and kept it in check.
Good day for the man in the leader's jersey, but let's have a look at the stage result. Katehoven just a second ahead of Gillebert, Grady, Hilton Clark and Hoverlink, also Chocolat Jacques, 3 men in the top 5 for the Belgian boys. Overall, Menzies keeps the lead, as he says, exactly the same time gaps. Elmiger, Lars Bach, Matt Lloyd and Gustav Larsen are the top 5 there. In the sprint competition, Luke Roberts and Gene Bates have now been joined by Wesley Sulzberger. In the King of the Mountains, Serge Paul has been joined by Samuel Dumoulin, so it's really tight at the top. This is the man who remains in the hot seat as we head off from Stirling to Victor Harbour on day 3 of the Tour Down Under. Yes, it's day 3 now of the Tour Down Under, opening the international cycling season in South Australia. Today's stage takes the riders from Stirling on the outskirts of Adelaide. We race across to Victor Harbour. Hello everybody, I'm Phil Liggett, joined by Paul Sherwen. Yesterday there was a great attacking move which came from Stuart O'Grady to try and make some amends and get a stage win. Didn't quite work out for him.
Well, it didn't quite work out, but I think Stuart O'Grady, like a lot of the other pre-race favourites, knew there was going to be a long breakaway and they looked for it. Stuart O'Grady, I thought, was riding superbly yesterday, but he had a big ticket on his back that said, I want to win here on the outskirts of Adelaide, and everybody chased him down. And he was finally caught just 600 metres from the line.
He was, and it was a great teamwork from Chocolat Jacques. They had 4 riders in the leading group, 2 of them then taking first and second. A great win for Stephen Katehoven. He's not a big winner yet in the world of cycling, and this was his biggest win ever of his career. Well, Carl Menzies is still the 1-second leader of this race, just a second ahead of Martin Elmiger of Switzerland. Let's ask the riders who's going to win today. And by the way, the weather, a little bit of rain in the air. That's unusual in Australia.
Yeah, I mean, definitely just keeping safe today's definitely paramount in our, you know, getting through the day. But it's going to be another attacking day. I mean, every day's a race for opportunity to win a stage and, you know, to take time away from me and GC. So everyone's got to be on top of their game and keep their eye on everyone attacking today.
Well, Stuart, a little bit frustrating to get so close to the win yesterday and not quite getting it.
Yeah, had a decent crack. I think took out a bit of frustration from the day before about not being in the break. But I mean, the main emphasis was just put a bit of pressure on the leading team and inflict a bit of pain. And I think, you know, that was mission accomplished. And obviously, when I got out there, it was just going for the stage win. It was a bit of a bummer to miss out.
You're a man who carries a very famous name in the sport of professional cycling, Roach, following in your father's wheel marks now.
Yeah, it's I tried to. It's not easy, and
I'm doing the same sport, but not following obligatory the same steps. Like his steps are pretty big. I'm trying just go my own way.
So we're down south again in South Australia. The race this week going due south from Stirling, right down to the side of the ocean. Sprint on the way to Chunga, and we'll continue on to Goolwa. That's at 70 kilometres. Then they do just to skirt the outside of Victor Harbour. They take in a new hill as they head down towards the finish. It might prove decisive today. The weather forecast is rain all of the way, but at least at the start here in Stirling, it looks as though it's starting to dry up, Paul.
Looking a little bit dry at the start, but I tell you one thing, it is going to rain quite heavily towards the end of the day. The rain is coming in off the ocean, but I don't think the riders, Phil, will be too worried about that, because after all, the temperature is still a very comfortable 26 degrees Celsius.
Well, the riders preceding everybody else, but out on the course today, there are many hundreds of fun cyclists completing the route as well. They probably get wet too as they make it down to Victor Harbour. We might see some along the way. Carl Menzies, as he told us, defending just that 1 second lead. So he'll hope that a breakaway gets away and it won't affect his destiny at all. The flag is in. Mike Turter quick to get in the car there, because we start today downhill, always by tradition, a very fast beginning.
Well, the fact that it is slightly downhill towards the start is really going to push the pace up, and we're already looking at around about 55 kilometres an hour, and nobody really wants to let up at all. You can see the effect that it's having already at the rear end of the main field.
110 riders still in the race. We've only lost 2 along the way, and already pressure on from the front here now. The rider in second place, that is certainly Jeremy Hunt of the Unibet team, one of the few UK riders in this event, and also setting the pace there too, one of the Grady Agricole boys.
Well, Jeremy Hunt, I thought, had a fabulous season last year when he was riding for the Unibet team, and in fact I think here he's trying to force a move off the front end of the main field. He's been in Australia since October, towards the end of last season, and I think here he's just taking advantage of the fact that he has been training and racing already in pretty good sunshine conditions.
Well, just trying to get onto his back wheel at the moment is Gianpaolo Chiula from the Barlow World team. Happy to work with him here and try to get this field in action very, very early. It's been a steady descent, now on a long steady climb here as we head away from Chunga, as the riders now try desperately, or heading to Chunga rather, as the riders now try to get this split going. You know what, Paul, there is a gap there behind.
There certainly is, and I think that's the plan for Team Unibet there, and looks as if there's a Unibet rider at the back. I think in fact that was Baden Cook who's made the junction here. Now that will be important. I don't see any of the riders from that first breakaway of 18 riders on the first day present here, so that may well give them a chance, but the gap is only 25 seconds back to the front end of the main field.
A small rider on the front there too, also driving them along, and that is the smallest man in the race, Dumoulin. This is Brett Lancaster, still a world record holder in the 4,000 metres team pursuit, and a useful man to have in an early move. They are prizing open a gap here now. We're only talking seconds, but it's got off to a very rapid start. You're right, that was Baden Cook going by. There's his teammate Jeremy Hunt. Navigators have Victor Rapinski. Miles Ullman is up here as too for SA.com, as in Matthew Goss. So there's some good names made this split, and from the look of it, none at the moment will endanger Carl Menzies. There's Irene the Devil enjoying her day.
I tell you what, Phil, these guys are keeping the pressure up nice and high. We're looking at 50 kilometres an hour. It's going to be a very difficult move to pull back this. As long as they can keep the pressure on for the next 20 or 30 kilometres, they may well break the stranglehold of the main field. But reports are coming in that on the front of the main field, it's actually the Chocolat Jacques team, the team that was present yesterday with 4 riders, today have completely missed out.
Which is quite amazing. They moved right up into second place in the team race yesterday because of 4 riders in that front group, and amazingly not one of that team has made this split. But then it's not the end of the day yet. There's still an awful long way to go. We're just about 15 kilometres in here as we approach Chunga and the first sprint of the day. Just sitting nicely at the back there is Matti Breschel of Team CSC. They've got 2 riders in here. Matthew Goss is also up in this group.
I tell you what, Phil, just looking at this, you can see how fast these riders are going. Everyone going to the front, everyone in this group is prepared to keep the pressure as high as possible. Each rider going to the front, setting the pace for 50 or 60 metres, swinging off, getting into the slipstream of the other rider in front of him, recuperating a fraction, then going forward again to push the pace up nice and high.
Pace being set by Goss now, a little bit of respite at the front. Now they're swinging into the first sprint of the day. Small time bonuses and points here for the SA Lottery sprint competition, which is what is interesting now. Rapinski, He's in a position now, if he can win out the next one, then he's going to help himself to a race lead in that competition. So that's a good 3 points in the bag. 3 seconds time bonus he won't be quite so much concerned with. Although he is the best placed rider in this breakaway, he's still looking for around 16 minutes lead over the field to grab the ochre jersey.
A little bit further back, this is Robbie McEwen. He has been complaining since the start of this race of actually having a little bit of bronchitis, and I think he's actually here formed a small group who are trying to get across the gap, but they're still hovering at around about 45 seconds.
Cédric Coutouille on the French Agri-Turbo team. This looks like Mario Hertz here, one of the grand old-timers of the Lotto team and still riding superbly. Darren Lill in his first visit, South African rider, won only 3 in the race. So Grady, who did so well yesterday. Martin Elmiger looking after that 1 second deficit. And Clinton Avery, the 19-year-old Kiwi.
Gene Bates up here as well, but Elmiger's presence, I think, Phil, is rather dangerous because let's not forget he's only a second down off the overall classification. There's Laurent Brochard, one of the men who was aggressive on yesterday's stage. Everybody now looking for the move, and looking back, they've actually got a gap over the main field.
Well, here comes the main field, and I think the man they want back, of course, is Elmiger. They're not going to allow him to slip away, and the chase is more or less complete here. We've still got those 19 riders up the road.
Well, for Uni SA, what they have got to do, Phil, is just keep a very close eye on the riders who are in that breakaway on the first day. But this now is going to change everybody's ardour, I think, because the rain is starting to come down, and reflection immediately. 2 minutes and 22 seconds. I think finally they've broken the strings at the back.
It took a long time. We're 57 kilometres in now. We're heading towards Goulwa. We heard it was raining heavily in Goulwa, but it's actually spread towards the race here. They thought it was beginning to dry out, but it is actually quite torrential now. Now, it's a little bit unpleasant, but it is warm at the moment. The riders won't be too unhappy with this. But can you believe, Paul, it's only taken 9 years to get a wet day on this event?
Absolutely remarkable. We won't complain, I don't think, in South Australia about the rain, because they've certainly been waiting for this, I think, since the month of May.
1 kilometre to Goulwa, and then that second sprint. Now, if Rapinski can get this, and that's him on the front, I'm not sure whether the others are too interested in even challenging him. If he gets over the line first, he will be the new leader in the SA Lottery sprint competition.
Well, the Belarusian rider will be looking for that, because I tell you one thing, I've seen him racing in the United States of America, and he turns a very fast pedal, and that will be, I think, right in the back of his mind. You see, he hasn't slipped right down the line there. He slipped down into 5th place. Wants to keep himself at the front end of this line. He will certainly, Phil, I think, try and get himself points again.
Christophe Laurent is the rider in green at the front just now, and there's a Bouygues Telecom rider, Dimitri Champion, who's also up there setting the pace. And here's a look back here, and this is the chase still being done, can you believe? That's Glenn Gollandu, 71. This is Manuel Calvanti. 2 teams who have no riders up front, so I'm afraid the workhorses have to get to the front and try and do something about it. But they are losing their grip on the breakaway again today.
Well, the problem is that that race at the front, Phil, was being run off at about 55 kilometres an hour. You would have to have one of the strongest teams in the world to nail it back. There's the winner of yesterday's stage, Katoven. He today has got to be a workhorse at the front to try and pull it all back together, because let's not forget, they have the lead in the King of the Mountains classification, and Samy Dumoulin, I think, is in the leading group, and he could be a dangerous rider.
Well, if he gets up on the mountains, he's going to take over the lead, and they will lose that lead in the King of the Mountains today for sure. Dumoulin is on the far side. He's the small guy. We're into Goulwa. Rapinski has made his move here. Sorry about the rain on the camera lens, but that's certainly Victor Rapinski. And you see, nobody else really in this competition, so he's got himself 3 valuable points, and this is going to give him the lead in that competition. Pretty easy.
Very easy for him, but you have to calculate and figure out just when to make the move. He stayed at the front end of this group to get himself those points, and he will, at least this evening, Phil, after a damp day in the saddle, walk away with a leader's jersey.
Job done. Waits for the riders to catch up, because there's no point with 50 kilometres to go to try and hang on out there, that's for sure. The rain is increasing in its intensity here as the riders go through Goulwa. The years we've come through this town, and the sun has beaten down everybody with their shirt off, and look at it today.
Well, I tell you what, Phil, looking at the pace of the main field now, I think they've decided to turn off. I think they now realise they are not going to pull back that leading breakaway, because these guys are still very well organised. You can see nobody's shirking the pacemaking, although there are 2 riders from the Uni SA team at the back not doing any work, but that is explicable by the fact that they do not want this breakaway to succeed. They are teammates of the overall leader.
Yeah, they're the policemen, really. You'll probably see them right at the back. One's got red shorts on, that'll be Mitchell Docker. Both got white jerseys. There they are. The one talking is, in fact, Chris Jongerwaard. And there's Mitchell on the left of our picture. That's their job, and the others know that, so they're not going to say anything to them. They're along for the ride. If it gets down to the finish, I think they might move off the back, but we'll find out soon.
Well, there's a couple of climbs along the way, and that might dislodge a number of riders. This is still, for the moment, a very large, well-organised group. But I feel, Phil, with the new running towards the finish, this group is certainly going to start to split to pieces.
Oh dear, this is back in Goulwa here, and we're going back nearly 6 minutes, Paul. And the Chocolat Jacques is still on the front, but I think the white flag's gone up.
Well, certainly, I think it has. Nobody at the front of the race in that leading group now is at all of danger in the overall classification.
So as the race tries and the clouds get darker behind them, the leaders of 19 men are running away with this event right now, and soon they'll be able to decide which one will win. There's no doubt now the big peloton on the Tour Down Under for the third day in succession have missed out on an early move, because the riders up front have got the race to themselves, Paul.
They certainly have, but I tell you what, once they come to the final few kilometres, it's going to get very grippy at the front end of this bike race. And as we look to the front end of the race, Phil, there's already a little move to break free.
It's a good move, this, by Gianpaolo Cula, because the man from Barlow World, he's Italian. He'll probably find the weather a little bit more to his liking today than the real hot, scorching weather they expected, as they now make the way around the Fleurier Peninsula before we will circle back to the finish in Victor Harbour.
It's a very nice move there. He's got himself around about a 200-metre advantage. You can see just by looking into his face how difficult today's stage has been. It's been made a little bit more difficult by the fact the weather condition has completely changed in the last 48 hours. I think what he would like, Phil, at a situation like this is to see a small group coming up to chase him. The main field, however, the peloton, right now they're a long way behind.
Well, I've got them pegged there at over 10 minutes down here. Come on, the Aussies. Well, the Aussies are in the breakaway. That's for sure. They got outnumbered yesterday by the Europeans, but today they put a few in there. There is the man back in the peloton chatting away with a teammate. That's Carl Menzies, and he's still got his 1 second advantage, remember, over second overall Martin Elmiger. All the men that really matter are still trapped in the peloton. Meanwhile, back up front, this man is going for gold today.
He's looking to try and get himself some points at the top of this King of the Mountains. In that group behind him, by the way, the only man who is really dangerous at all to the overall classification of Menzies is Viktor Rapinski, the rider from Navigators and from Belarusia. But he has to make up today, Phil, at least 16 minutes.
And he's beginning to struggle on this climb, Paul, actually. He's detached from this chase pack. Here it is, the chase pack, still going well. Left in green and white is Baden Cook looking over his shoulder. I think he wants a little bit of help from his teammate.
Tell you what, you look at the way Baden Cook is pedaling there. He looks rather good. He's got a very supple movement in those legs of his. That's an indication that he's not too bad. In fact, this acceleration by Cookie has split the group.
Well, Dumoulin is in that lead group. If he can just snick a second place up here, then he'd get the points and will be a clear leader for the first time this week in the King of the Mountains competition. But the man that gets the big points is Gianpaolo Cula. He comes up, and it's Dumoulin, who was in the action and won yesterday, is now at the front again. He does get the second place. Jouffre, I think it was, his third. Jongerwaard fourth. So we have a clear leader in the King of the Mountains now.
But there's still a lot of big mountains to come. This is Gianpaolo Cula. He's about to get picked up by the front end of this group. I can see Baden Cook is in this group, and you can actually see there's a fair gap of around about 15 to 20 seconds over the remnants of the breakaway group.
Well, he's done well to stay away. I don't think he was envisaging staying away to the finish. Here comes Baden Cook. 3 stage wins in the past years gone by of the Tour Down Under, as he now continues to set the pace. CSC, Matti Breschel and Matt Goss are represented here.
There are 9 riders now in this leading group starting to form. They've gone over the top of this climb. Now they can start to get themselves organised. They'll be a lot happier now, Phil, because the group is just that little bit smaller. You just noticed there Jongerwaard indicating there to Jeremy Hunt, come through, but I don't think Jeremy can at the moment. He's not one of the greatest climbers in the world, but if it comes down to a sprint, Watch out for the man from Great Britain.
Twice the British champion and does pack quite a sprint finish, but I think today if he's going to help anybody it'll be his team leader and captain Baden Cook, who's in there. I'll tell you, if they carry Baden Cook to the finish, he'll win the race. He's such a good sprinter.
He certainly is. The main field now are tickling 11 minutes in arrears. They're losing time every kilometre of the race. But, Phil, that's not really important because the men who are leading this race overall have got such a large advantage after that breakaway on the first day. They don't really have to bury themselves on a day like today, especially with what's coming up tomorrow and Wollonga Hill.
Just looking at the crowd there with the umbrellas up, we really never expected this. These people on holiday down here on the peninsula, and remembering that there's never been any rain in the region really of any note since May. Today they are being really dumped on, but they're sticking it out. There goes Robbie McEwen, he too is sticking it out, but again trapped in the back of the pack, and there's an attack here, and that looks like Wim van Seveners. He's on the Lotto squad. He's a Tour de France rider. He's ridden the Tour from memory 3 times. He's never retired from it once. He's always seen Paris. Good time to break.
Well, he's been a professional for an awful long time. He turned professional way back in 1996. He actually started his career as a very good cyclocross rider in the winter. And I suppose today this is very similar kind of conditions.
It is. He can cut the corners and go over the rough stuff, I guess. But this is a good move here. Now, he's on the same team as Robin McEwen. McEwen's the sprinter. This man that we call the stayer, the man that will try to go it alone. Good decision. He must have 15 to 20 seconds. He's looking at around about 20 kilometres to run.
Well, if you cast your mind back to the Tour de France of last year, on the front of the peloton, on many occasions, there were a couple of riders from Team Lotto, De Vitamon Lotto at the time, who were setting the pace for maybe 50, 60, 80 kilometres. And Van Sevenum was one of those riders setting the pace making for Robbie McEwen.
This is a new approach to Victor Harbour for the race this year, and it's not flattened by any manner of means, but it looks as though they're dragging him back in here, just a handful of them.
The man doing the work on the front there, in fact, was Jeremy Hunt. We're looking at about 5 kilometres to go to the finish line. Jeremy Hunt, the former 2-time British national champion, I think you're right, Phil, today is sacrificing his own chances for those of Baden Cook.
Well, I'm always sorry when the adventurers get hauled back, but I think it's all over here for him. If he looks over his shoulder now, he's going to see the remnants of that breakaway clawing the way back to him. It's now spread over about 3 or 4 minutes. The original 19 riders who broke away. Here they come, still plenty of movement there, they're chasing.
Well, they haven't got him yet, and you see this man's still got a fair amount of power in the engine there. He's not slowing down at all. He will keep a nice steady tempo, while behind they will start to play a little bit of tactical manoeuvring, thinking about how they go. Well, I don't know where he came from.
Well, that was an absolute flyer, and this again is Kula here from Barlow World and working up to the CSC rides. I think that's Matt Goss who's trying to get on terms there.
Well, this is Gianpaolo Kula. He really came across the gap there, but he doesn't have a gap over the front of this group. They've all come back together there, and now there's another little move on the way down.
And they're getting away, and the caption telling us 2 on the right. It's Cookie and Jongewaard. Now, Jongewaard has played the part here, being a team man of the race leader Carl Menzies, who's trapped back in the field. He's not done any work today. He's only followed wheels. And I'm wondering if he's doing exactly the same here with Cookie, who's going to get a little bit annoyed if he does. No, he's free to work.
Different now. This is the chance to get a stage victory. And look at the acceleration. His legs just that little bit better than everybody else's in the group this afternoon, because, yes, he has sat on the back, but he was the policeman for the overall leader, Carl Menzies. Now it's the turn of Baden Cook to get a little bit of a breather before they start the tricky little entrance into the town.
This is the roundabout. He, in fact, will be off to America shortly to join the Jittery Joe's professional cycling team. Chris Jongewaard, his father was at the start this morning too. And it looks as though Cookie struggled to get onto terms there, but he's got onto his back wheel, and he knows they've got to work together, because that chase group is no more than 12, 14, or might be now about 15 seconds the gap.
Well, they're trying to get themselves organised, just looking over his shoulder. Breschel now is trying to get the rest of this group organised. The blue shorts there are Sammy Dumoulin. He's the small rider. He punches a pretty good finish as well on the back. Gianpaolo Kula, just 4 riders. That gap is hovering now around the 10-second mark, so they can't mess around or play any tactical games in front.
Dumoulin trying to make a move now. It's so glacial, that water. We've had crashes on that corner before in past years when we've come here to Victor Harbour, but the weather then has been bright and sunny. Today, as you can see, the roads are awash. There's still a great crowd waiting in the rain around the top bend there. We're heading up towards the finish, and now it's got to be advantage Baden Cook. He's going to sit in that slipstream of Jongewaard, and he's going to jump out and take the stage for sure.
Well, he's the kind of man who's won the green jersey competition in the Tour de France. He's got the biggest explosion, and he started.
Well, he knows, and Chris Jongewaard knows he's no answer to that. He's catapulted for the line. The very first year we had the Tour Down Under, this was the domain of Stuart O'Grady. Today it's the other Aussie sprinter, and Baden Cook gets it. He gets it clearly. Won't be much progress overall, but he will do extremely well on the day. He gets first prize.
Jongewaard across the line there in second place, and this looks very much as if we're going to get an Aussie 1-2-3 here. Just across the line there was Matty Goss.
Just looking down, wait to see. This is the rest of the riders from that breakaway coming in now. All well beaten today by Baden Cook, the sprinter.
Baden, a rough day out on the road today, but it's always great to get a win under the belt.
Yeah, I rang my parents this morning and said keep an eye out. I was going to have a crack today. I'd had 2 days looking after the legs in the peloton, and then I knew my legs were good. I thought it was a short stage. I couldn't do too much. I don't want to do too much damage in so early in the season, so I thought I'd have a go. Until 40k to go, I wasn't even really touching the pedals, but I felt really good, and Jeremy Hunt did a huge amount of work in the final to pull it all together for me, and I'm just glad I could put it together for him.
I'll tell you, that's the words of a man who knows his top form is just around the corner. There's the peloton coming in there, 14 minutes plus back. But the man who keeps the ochre jersey is still Carl Menzies on top.
Well, it's the first time I can remember it raining at the Tour Down Under. It must have been a long, hard day in the saddle for you, Carl.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it went straight out of the blocks there. Tricky little descent, and that's where the group went away. So, just trying to keep safe today, and it was difficult there at the finish too, because the time gap blew out, and the boys the UniSA boys all rode on the front really well, and just had to keep it safe there at the finish, make sure there wasn't a time gap. I only got 1 second, so as it is, every second counts.
But every day counts as well, and you're still the man in the ochre jersey. Next up is going to be Wollonga Hill.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it was always going to come down to tomorrow. Yeah, who knows? I mean, I won't be able to tell you till the end of stage tomorrow, but I'll give it my best, and all the boys have ridden so well the last few days, and I hope I can pull off a win for them.
Let's hope the weather changes too. Baden Cook the winner today though, the sprinter ahead of Chris Jongewaard, Matt Goss, Josep Joufre and Samuel Dumoulin of France. Aussies 1, 2, 3. Overall, Menzies keeps his 1 second. There's no change in the order at all amongst the top 10 men. Elminger stays second, Lars Bak is third, and Matt Lloyd, another Australian, is fourth. In the sprint competition, new leader here, Victor Rapinski is now the new leader for Navigators. And in the King of the Mountains, new leader here too. Samuel Dumoulin of AG2R from France is a clear leader now. Tomorrow is the Battle of the Old Wollonga Hill, and surely that's where the final destiny will decide the ochre jersey. Well, today is unusually cloudy here. We're now moving towards the McLaren Vale region of South Australia. This is Wollonga, and today is the showdown as we go to stage 5 in the Tour Down Under. Hello everybody, I'm Phil Liggett. Well, yesterday was one of the fastest stages the race had ever seen despite the heavy rain, and in the end it was a rather wet Baden Cook who took out the sprint, and that was his 4th ever stage win in the Tour Down Under, but he did nothing to alter the overall classification. In fact, at the top of the leaderboard is still Carl Menzies, the winner of day 1. He's just got that 1 second advantage over second place Martin Elminger, but as you can see, the leaders of this race are all covered by seconds, and today the Old Wollonga Hill will have the say. I'm joined now by Paul Sherwen. Paul, the Old Wollonga Hill has got to decide this race.
Well, it always has decided this race over the pass. It's very difficult. It's stacked up right towards the end. And as you said, there are a number of riders queued up behind to try and take the overall victory here off Carl Menzies, who's led since day one. I think Matthew Lloyd has got something in his back pocket because he's got a big revenge to take on Wollonga Hill because he crashed out on this very stage last year. Now he's a contender. But watch out for Martin Elminger, the Swiss rider, 1 second behind, former Swiss national champion. He's a man with an awful lot of talent.
All right, well, before we go to the start, let's have a look at what the riders have got to say about what is the most crucial day of the race.
The main focus of the day is the climb, and although it's, you know, it's short, it's you know, it's obviously going to be decisive in some way, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, sure. My team is strong, and they try to do something for me, and they help me for win the overall. So it's today and tomorrow, and we will see. I give my best, and I hope I can take the second, and then I'm happy.
I mean, it's not going to be that easy. I think it's going to be a lot of attacking early on, and again, I'm going to have to get up the climb. I mean, here it is now, as you said. I mean, no mucking around today. It's pretty easy. We just got to get there, so we'll do it. I'll get up there. Don't worry about that.
Well, good on you, Carl. It's big D-Day today as we go down South Australia now. It is in fact stage 4, and we're heading on a familiar course here. We head out of Wollonga, we go down Aldinga Beach, down Snapper Point, back through McLaren Vale, back into Wollonga. We do that 3 times, and then on the 4th approach, it's up the mountain of the old Wollonga Hill, over the tops, and then it's virtually a 10-kilometre race for the line. And who gets there first? Just a second covering the first 2 riders. There they are. I would imagine, Paul, that there are some very nervous men down there today.
There are a lot of nervous riders. They all know how important this race is today. This particular stage has really been written into the annals of the cycling history here at the Tour Down Under. And I think what a lot of riders will be a little bit wary about, Phil, is the wind. If you look at the flags here, there is a very strong wind on this course, and that could split the race up early on.
Well, I've never seen weather conditions like this in Wollonga. We've only been here in the heat, often in excess of 40 degrees. But today, the shivers is on, and the cloud is coming off over the hills, and it could well rain on us before this stage is over. There's the big field as they get the first sight of the old Wollonga Hill, but in fact we turn right and dive away from it for a couple of hours first off. There's the red flag is in, the race is on. Now let's see what they do with the wind, because they're going to feel this wind as soon as they leave the town.
Well, UniSA have got to be very attentive this afternoon. Let's not forget, Phil, this race is still only separated by a few seconds, but already out on the open road there's been a little bit of a split in the main field, and we're looking at speeds again approaching 50 kilometers an hour.
Well, the wind is cross. Now it's going to slightly change direction. Riders trying to scrabble onto the back of this leading group here. As expected, they've got off to a very quick start. You can see by the angle of what we call echelon forming across the road, that's indicating the direction of the wind, which is right to left at the moment.
Yeah, you can see also there's Robbie McEwen riding to the front. You don't catch him out in a situation like this. He races the majority of his career in Belgium, so he's used to the tough crosswind sections. Now, this is a very large group. I'd be surprised, Phil, if they'll allow them to get too much freedom, because it's a group that's going to be very difficult to control. Just looking back there, you can see the remnants of the main field scrambling down the right-hand side of the road there. It's not very much more than about 10 seconds. Now they should turn into a little bit of a headwind, and that might slow them down.
This will take us down to the beaches at Aldinga, Silver Beach, Silver Sands, I think they call it, down there towards Snapper Point. And it looks as though they're slowly but surely reforming. There's going to be a few aching legs already.
Well, that was Jeremy Hunt, the man who helped Baden Cook get himself the victory yesterday. A lot of CSC riders at the front end of this group there. You can see Stuart O'Grady. He's on a mission as well. There's a lot of support for Stuart O'Grady out on the road this morning. I saw a lot of "Go Stewie Go" written down. I think they would like to see him get the victory. But Phil, I think just looking down the road there, I caught a quick glimpse of the main field. I think we're about to see a general regrouping.
More or less all together here, but you can bet your life the attacks won't stop now, because they're getting the feel for this race. The idea will be to try and get a group away and to get to the climb ahead of the race and hopefully see the finish before the pack. But there's so many riders believe that they can actually win this race overall when it ends in Adelaide tomorrow, that they're going to pay a lot of attention.
Well, when you see the main field spread across the road like that, that's an indication that the pressure has finally turned off for a moment. But I'm sure there'll be some more attacks. There's the ochre jersey of the leader, Carl Menzies, safely in the middle of the main field. And 1 or 2 riders here, Phil, have decided once again to try and launch a small group off the front.
And normally the crowds here are basking in hot sunshine, but it's quite overcast today, and you can see the wind, but there's still plenty of atmosphere here. This is a beautiful grandstand to watch the race go by, and while the race is out on its circuits, there is in fact a women's race to entertain the crowds. So now there's somebody asking questions at the back of the chief commissaire's car there. It looks like it might be Robbie McEwen.
It looked very much like Robbie McEwen. I'd like to have been a fly on the wall of that car to see what Robbie was discussing with the chief commissaire, the referee, as they call them in professional cycling. But while he was discussing at the back, look at what's going on at the front here, Phil. In excess of 60 kilometers an hour, and now once again we've got a small group forming.
And this is the first time. This is beginning to prize open a gap. It looks like Robbie McLaughlin on the back here for UniSA. He's the policeman in effect, because it's his man Carl Menzies on the same team who leads the race. He's going along to keep an eye on things. He won't help this escape. He's just going to sit there. He's checking on his little radio there to see what progress they're making.
He's calling back to the team manager, mate, what am I supposed to do now? Well, all he can do really is sit on and hope this breakaway doesn't survive, because he's going to be required a little bit later on. The blue shorts there are the shorts of Laurent Brochard, a man who again was very aggressive yesterday, almost 39 years of age. A couple more riders coming across there from Team Barlow World. One of those is Fabrizio Guidi. He is a very good sprinter. Just getting on the back there is Darren Lill in the black jersey of Navigators, a South African rider.
New team for Darren. He's a South African rider, as you say. There are 3 of them in the race now. Signs of progress from that nation in the world of professional cycling. And it looks as though they've got themselves a nice gap here now as we race down towards McLaren Vale on this first lap. And the flat tyre here. Now that really is bad luck, because the rider who's punctured here,
that is Lagutin.
It is Sergei Lagutin, who was in that leading group, and now he's going to find himself back in the peloton. That's tough.
That's very tough. In fact, at this point of the game, you know, Phil, if the race referees have not noticed that the gap is big enough, they don't let the neutral service vehicles in. He's being serviced here by one of the service motorbikes, and that's a pretty slow change. He might as well basically wait for the main field to catch him.
At these speeds, he's not going to catch back up today. So go back in the bunch and see what happens as we see here the peloton now having to think the situation. I think we've got about 13 riders formed up in that front group now, and that nobody, as far as I could ascertain from the pictures, is endangering the overall leader, Menzies, or indeed the other riders who fancy their chances. So they might turn off a little bit and allow this race to run. Here we are back up with the leaders now. Diego Katja. There's McLaughlin sitting near the back here in those red shorts. And Darren Lill, the smallest rider in the breakaway, very good climber. He shouldn't have any fears if he gets to the hill in this leading group. And also they'll watch out too for Heath Blackgrove of New Zealand. They've got 2 riders up here.
And in the red and white jersey there is the champion of Denmark. That's Alan Johansson. It's a very good group. Everyone's very content to work at the front end of the main field. They're holding on to about a 1.5 minute advantage, Phil. I don't think the main field have decided today to allow them too much freedom, as we've seen on previous stages.
Well, this time through the snapper point, which is about 2 kilometers up the road, is the first sprint of the day. Small time bonuses will not really worry anybody here, as they all assess what's going on, waiting for the time check, I think, from the race to see just how much progress is being made. Lill doesn't seem very keen on working, and that may be because he's got riders up in that top 9 riders overall. Just take a look at the Australian flag there, and boy, is that wind strong.
It is howling off the sea here, pushing the riders over to the right-hand side of the road. There's a couple of time bonus sprints on these circuits around Aldenga Beach, and these riders will be looking to try and get themselves a few points. But in the main field, they're still hovering, and they're not allowing these riders too much freedom as they have done on previous stages, which indicates to me that the big names in the main field are going to try and see, Phil, if they can look for the victory today. And of course, we're looking to try and decide the overall classification.
Making the most now as they pick up following wind yet again off that corner. And this is the field now, just the breakaway group rather, just trying to keep things nice. A little move by Laurent Brochard as he goes through, followed by Matt Wilson, and that's Hans Dekkers who's tagged on to the back. Dekkers is a good sprinter here, and he's hoping to win a stage. He told me at the start of this tour, a bit of work to do for that yet, but it looks as though he's going to win the sprint. And very unusual to see Laurent Brochard take somebody on in the sprint like that, but he's had a very aggressive race this year, the former world champion.
Well, Laurent Brochard trying to get himself back a little bit of form if he can, because after all he had a very nasty accident towards the end of last season. That's why he's come here to the Tour Down Under, to try and get his form early on. There's the front end of the main field. there's not a serious chase going on there, Phil. It looks very much as if it's the guys from Unibet all over the front end of the peloton.
Well, they'll try to back it off. They've got Matty Wilson in that breakaway, the former champion of Australia, and going to give him his chance, I guess, to see if they can do something here. A long way to go yet. There's the ochre jersey of Menzies, the fragile 1 second advantage, but he's looking quite cool. This is his big test today, and he knows it, of course. Is he too big to get up the old Wollonga Hill? There's the breakaway as they come down through the start-finishing line again. And in the background there, it looks as though the peloton is closing in.
Well, it looks to me at that distance, don't forget it gets foreshortened a fraction by the camera, but that is around about a minute and a minute 15. So they're not giving them their freedom here this afternoon. As we look at the front end of this group, they need to keep together, need to work as a unit if they're going to hope to hold on, because it's a long way round these flats before we finally actually get to Wollonga Hill.
Feeding station 82 kilometers in. The battle of the old Wollonga Hill is imminent now, and this breakaway has got to it first, but will they be caught on the climb? Because just how far behind is that group? I reckon just over 1 minute as they try to keep it clear before the climb starts. Matty Wilson gets the first few. It's been a magnificent crowd here, but the reports are there are huge crowds on the climb itself, probably the biggest we've ever seen. Well, it's all down to the last climb of the race now. Well, this is the second and final sprint before we head on to the circuit that takes in the old Wollonga Hill. These 13 riders just over 2 minutes clear.
Well, they're still working very well together, Phil, but I do feel the main field has definitely got them pegged here this afternoon. They're hovering at around about the 2.5 minute mark, but it really is a blustery day here on this Liggett Beach circuit.
I must say, they've never allowed this breakaway to really gain a lot of time. They're holding them because I reckon they're waiting to pounce once we get to the hill. Well, Laurent Brochard's had a great day yet again. He's the boy in blue. It looks like he's thinking of the sprint here, and he's going to try and go over the top of Heath Blackgrove, which he's done for New Zealand. No reaction at all, and this time I think Brochard's done it right. He was second last time, and I think Deckers is coming after him too, so too is Avery. As they hit the line, the youngest man in the race there, I think, took third place, Clinton Avery from New Zealand.
Well, that's Laurent Brochard. You know, he's going to be 39 years of age in March, and as you can see by those bands, a former world champion in very fine form, Phil, very early on in the season.
But just look at those clouds, and that's quite a rough ocean here, but in fact the rain is coming and going. The wind is very, very strong. It's not that cold, and the riders here now all massing behind. They're going to nail back that group, I think, because there's still riders willing to work and chase.
Well, UniSA controlling it a little bit at the front. You can just see in the distance there, the front end of the main field. I put this gap, Phil, at around about a minute and 15 seconds.
At the most, and we're heading straight on this time, not turning right to go round the circuit to the beaches. We're going up the mountains now. A last drink for the two New Zealand riders in this breakaway. They know that that field is coming, but if they can just get up the hill, which is about 3 kilometers long, then they have a real chance of staying away to the finish.
Well, that's Christoph in second place there, the rider from AG2R. They're in a very long line, but they now know what is awaiting them. It's the climb of Old Wollonga Hill. It's a very difficult climb. When you think you've got to the top, well, think again, because sadly enough, it continues a little bit longer.
13 men starting the climb, and believe me, there is a huge crowd waiting on the climb. Here comes the main field, led by Matty White on the far side.
Well, on the finishing line there, Phil, the gap was actually down to just 1 minute, so they really are starting to pull these guys back. It's going to be very touch and go, but I still think that some of the remnants of that leading group are going to survive the day.
Now, all of the riders in the overall classification in with a win chance tomorrow in Adelaide are together in this group, and there's the ochre jersey of the leader by that single second. Third around the corner, Carl Menzies. So he's got a perfect look at the hill to start a defence of that lead.
Well, this climb, once the riders really get into it, is around about 3 kilometers in length. And just looking down at that group of riders, Phil, I think 1 or 2 men are slowly starting to split off already.
I reckon we've got 6 or 7 riders left here, and we're going back no more than 35-40 seconds to the head of that big pack of cyclists as the riders continue to climb. Right on the front there's Heath Blackgrove in New Zealand, climbing very, very smoothly indeed. And Robbie McLaughlin, well, he's unhitched at the back now. He's on the same team as Menzies. He was there for being the policeman, but now he's had to give best on the climb.
Well, he really has suffered it. It's a very difficult climb, and they're slowly but surely tailing off this group. You can see another move going forward over to the right-hand side there. Laurent Brochard in the blue shorts looking fairly comfortable. And, of course, the two riders from Team Barlow World, Phil, still looking very dangerous. One of them, Fabrizio Guidi. If they take him to the line, he's going to be the winner.
Bet your life he's a great sprinter. I saw Matt Wilson there in trouble. Julian Dean's doing a good ride up here on this climb, and that's Glenn Dollander from Chocolat Jacques. He's also riding with a lot of good style about him and plenty of aggression. What have we got? 3, 6, 7 riders down there at the moment. The other two are unhitched. Now, where are the leaders from the pack? Because they can't be far behind.
Well, we're down to 7 riders. There's 2 chasers. Another rider going down the hill. It's still hovering around the 55-second mark. There is the front end of the main field. In fact, that is a field which is also starting to splinter.
Not surprising as they come up to the start of the climb here, but the question is, where is the ochre jersey of leader? He's got to keep a very close eye on Martin Elminger, the rider in second place, 1 second down. That's Elminger at the bottom of our camera in the black and white colours. The ochre jersey is there as well as they start the climb up here. Diego Caccia is the rider on the back for Italy, and the tempo again is lifted, and there's now only 6 of them left here.
Well, it's still Brochard doing a lot of work on the front. 92 there, you can see, is the sprinter. I'm surprised to see that Julian Dean is hanging tough here as well, because if he gets over the top, he's got a very good crack at getting the sprint, and the jersey he's wearing there is not the normal Crédit Agricole jersey. The black and white jersey is National Champion of New Zealand, a title he got just before he came here to the Tour Down Under.
Well, Heath Blackgrove is riding superbly on this climb, continuing to set the pace here, just ahead of Glenn Dollander. Brochard to the right. Number 92 is Fabrizio Guidi, the Italian who's joined the Barlow World team this year to add a bit of spice to the squad. Here's the chase coming from behind now, and it's Alan Johnson, the champion of Denmark, looking, I guess, for his teammate to try and give him a lift. This is a... Go on.
Matthew Lloyd. This is the man who last year dramatically crashed out on this very stage because of sunstroke. He ended up the day in hospital. Here he is climbing to try and wrest the ochre jersey off the shoulders of Carl Menzies.
This is win everything or lose everything, I think, from Matthew, because he knows he only needs a few seconds to win this race, and can he get them and hold them all the way down to the finish? A brave effort. I think it was to be predicted by Matthew. He knew he was going to do this.
Well, he's looking for 7 seconds at the end of the day. The man in front of him, don't worry about that. That was a rider who was dropped from the leading group. Still, the race situation is these 6 men, but the time gap crackling over race radio at the moment is 15 seconds back to Matthew Lloyd. Now, if he can make the junction, this race is going to turn upside down.
Well, Grady and Castia are looking over the shoulders there to see who is coming up or how much of a lead they've got, because they would prefer the sprint finish down below from these 6. Excellent work being done by Heath Blackgrove, and this is a superb chase now. Well, the Aussies up towards the top of the climb here are going to recognise this man and shout him home, because I think virtually the ride he did last year got him a place on this Pro Tour team.
Well, there's 2 or 3 riders there a little bit further back trying to come across to him. We don't have any information on who they are currently, but this man is looking at trying to ride himself into this group, and if he does that and they stay clear, he's going to win this race.
He's just caught up with Matthew Wilson, who was in this breakaway. He must be just over our shoulder. You can see the motorbikes down there. He can't be much further back than those bikes. And this is still Blackgrove setting the pace, so surely they'll let him be first over the top. After all, he's done all of the work up this climb, and he's got Glenn Dollander still in second place, followed by Laurent Brochard. None of these guys have got enough time to win the race overall, but they can certainly win the stage today in Wollonga.
Well, they certainly want to try and win the stage. This is really one of the queen stages of the Tour Down Under, and the Kiwi on the front, Phil, as you say, is doing a magnificent job. Now Glenn Dollander just licking his lips, waiting for the moment to move, but no, they've allowed the Kiwi to get maximum points. Now's the chance we'll get a chance to see just exactly what damage is being done behind. That is Matthew Lloyd there, and it looks to me as if somebody else is coming across.
Well, he's still got Wilson on his back wheel, Matthew Lloyd, and somebody else is coming across, and as this man goes up towards the summit, he is going to go over the top in first place. Quite rightly so. He's done all of the work. Now they need to get together quickly. There's no real descent for a while.
Well, these 2 riders, remnants of that 13-man breakaway, that's Christophe the rider from AG2R coming along here. This is still, looks as if Gene Bates has got himself into the mix as well. 111 there. Now this is looking still very good for Matthew Lloyd.
And look at the face on Simon Gerrans here, trying to drag Martin Elmiger into the race. That's Elmiger's second wheel. Gerrans, remember, won this race last year. They're closing in.
The ochre jersey was missing from that group. Carl Menzies is having a spot of bother here, Phil. I didn't see him come over the top of the climb.
Well, this is the move now. Gerrans becoming the helper. Last year at this stage, he was being helped to win the Tour. Now he's trying to get his team helper there to win the Tour, and that will be Martin Elmiger. This is going to be a race to the end now, and in fact, we've got Lloyd in here. Matthew Wilson is back in here, but that's the group behind Paul that contains Elmiger.
Well, this is going to be a dangerous move for Matthew Lloyd, because Elmiger started the day ahead of him in the overall classification. The former Swiss national champion was second overall at the start of the day. These are the 6 leaders, and it looks to me as if we're going to get a general regrouping, but behind are second and third in the overall standings, and still no sign of Carl Menzies.
I cannot believe that the climb has not split this race completely. In fact, they are coming together in groups, and the attack has gone away again, and this again is coming from Heath Blackgrove, who senses the infighting might leave him something to gain on this day.
This man is absolutely storming, getting himself into a very low profile position, but in fact that small group is tacked onto the back. This is a large group now. It was 7 riders, I would say. Now, Phil, it's up to about 15 or 16.
Well, I'm pretty sure to say that Matthew Lloyd is in here, and so too is Martin Elmiger, but just check it out. But Elmiger's certainly here, but we need the ochre jersey. Look down the road. I think the main field is coming back.
There's another group at around about 15 seconds. No information, as actually it looks as if it's all come back together in the final kilometre.
As they sprint here inside 300 metres, it looks as though all the senior men have got themselves together after that chase. Now, who's going to take the day? And this looks like Peter Gillibert has got clear. Is this another win for Chocolat Jacques like they had down in Harndorf a couple of days ago? Yes, it is. He was second there. He wins now. And that on the right with his mouth wide open is Elmiger. He gets a 2-second bonus. That will give him the race lead by just a single second. Unbelievable. Well, the win goes to Gillibert, but look at that third place. There it is. Elmiger on the far side gets a 2-second time bonus, and that will give him the race lead, even though the ochre jersey was right there.
Yeah, it was very hard last lap. On the climb, I gave everything for holding the second group, and then the riders of CSC closed the gap to the first riders. And then, with a little bit luck today, the other day I was second after my teammate. Then I was also very strong, but today it's my turn.
Yeah, I had a very strong team today. They was looking for me in the wind. It was always nervous today. So in the mountain I had Simon Gerrans, he was very strong. And in the front we had Yuri Christoph. He was waiting for me because I was not that good at the last days. So then on the top we was going hard, and we had 30 seconds. And I was thinking, oh, it's going well, and then the group comes back with the leader jersey, and then I make everything for the sprint, and I make third.
Well, what a great result it turned out. Peter Gillibert, though, getting the win. I think his first ever as a professional. Sergei Latkuin, the champion, Uzbekistan, in second place. Elmiger, that's the important one. He got the third place bonus, which gives him the lead by a single second over Carl Menzies with 1 day to go. The rest of the riders keep the similar time gaps that they had, just that 1 second more lost to Elmiger. Looking at the sprint, Brochard doing well now. He leads this with 20 points, and the King of the Mountains, Samuel Dumoulin, keeps that lead today with 28 points. Well, there it is. SouthAustralia.com have ridden superbly, and they have the clear lead in the team race over the #1 team in the world, Team CSC. A new leader tonight on the eve of the final stage. Can he now win it again for the Team AG2R, as happened last year? The city of Adelaide, and for the first time in 9 years, the end of the Tour Down Under here outside the famous Oval Cricket Ground is shrouded in cloud with a hint of rain and a very strong wind. Hello everybody, welcome to our final day's coverage of the Tour Down Under, the opener to the traditional cycling season 2007. This has been a great race, and yesterday we really thought it would have been decided. We called it the Battle of the Old Wollonga Hill, and Matthew Lloyd, lying fourth overall, made his play. He was brought back by Simon Gerrans, who brought back his teammate Martin Elmiger. By the time they got down to the finish in Wollonga itself, it was Peter Gillebert of Belgium who was winning, while Martin Elmiger, taking third place, got a 2-second time bonus. As a result, he reversed the overnight standings. Carl Menzies of Australia, who was a second in the lead, became a second behind. There's the overall situation for you. Menzies now in second place, but any one of these 5 riders today on this final circuit could get the bonuses required to win the race. I'm Phil Liggett, joined now by Paul Sherwen. Paul, who's going to win?
Well, that's a big question. I think we all want to know that. I think theoretically, Martin Elmiger is the man who's got the biggest chance because he's 1 second ahead. The man who has to grab back the time is Carl Menzies. He will try. He's motivated by the fact that he's an Australian playing on home turf. Don't discount Matthew Lloyd because he's got the possibility of getting into a breakaway down towards the end, but it really is, I think, going to be a day of suspense.
One thing is, we're assured here of the 18 circuits of the final circuit, a great day out. Let's talk to some of the top contenders first of all.
Yeah, it's set for a great battle out here today. I mean, Martin Elmiger is a very classy bike rider. He was the strongest guy there on, one of the strongest there on day one, and you know, it's going to be a great battle, and I hope we can get the jersey back.
Well, the other man who's the man in the ochre jersey, Martin Elmiger, former Swiss national champion. It is going to be a big battle for you today, but really you just have to keep your eyes very close to just one man.
Yeah, it sounds easy, but with the wind and with the circuit, with a lot of corner, it's difficult to stay on the wheel, so I have to ride also my own race, and yeah.
As the riders now move away for the last time in 2007, 107 of them have completed the 5 days of racing, and now it's all come down to this, a single second between the top 2, and really one of 9 riders, because of the time differences, could win this event if things fell in the right formation. And what we're going to see today is an awful lot of heavy attacking riding here, and they're straight away off to a marvellous start. Hats off to the crowd. They're a brave lot in Adelaide, because this isn't the normal weather for this time of the year, and yet there they all are, out in the thousands yet again. The story of the race, I feel, has been the crowds. Despite the change in the weather conditions, they've been very happy to come out and continue their support of this event. Just coming in from the left of our picture there, you may have caught a glimpse of a rider in a blue jersey. Well, that's the great Laurent Brochard, former world cycling champion. He's now the oldest man in the race at 38 years of age, and he leads the SA Lottery sprint competition, so watch out for him as the race unfolds. And the New Zealand boys have had a great tour, and it looks like they're at it again here. They're one of the big boys on the squad. It might well be a Clinton Avery, this, the youngest rider in the race. 18 laps is the menu today, 4.5 kilometres of each of the circuits, 81 kilometres in total. That's in old money is about 50 miles, and I guess we can expect a time of about 1 hour and 3/4. 10 seconds separates the top 4 riders, and of the 6 points available at the sprints, there's also 3 seconds in time bonuses, 2 and 1, and at the finish it's a 6-second bonus for winning, 4 seconds and 2 seconds, and you know it could come down to the very last sprint of this race.
There's the leader. Looks very calm and collected. He's showing Team UniSA, look, I'm the leader of this race. I have got the advantage. It's up to you boys to take it away from me. So there is the bell, 1 lap to the sprint.
Oh, and it's an attraction for Martin Elmiger. He's come from the depths of the peloton right up to the front to show these boys in white the leader's jersey isn't on their team for the first time in 5 days. And he's got a teammate with him who is going to try and pace him to the line.
That was Yuri Christoph moving up to the front, and he now is trying to make sure that the AG2R team have got the advantage. We'll be looking at the first sprint after 36 kilometres of the race having been covered. It's still big old Matty White showing that we, Team UniSA, have still got a lot of power in the engine room.
Shortly we'll be looking for the whereabouts of Alan Davies just ahead of Carl Menzies, because he'll try to launch Menzies at the line. but he's going to find a lot of people mix up, because Robbie McEwen is the boy in the light pink. The boy in the blue is Lana Broshard, who is the leader of the SA Lottery sprint competition. So he needs the points. He doesn't want the time bonus. He's racing for other reasons to hit the line first.
Maddie White on the front now, keeping it nice and high. When you get into a situation like this as a team helper, you get into a zone. You don't think about anything else. All you think about is keeping a certain amount of pain in your mind and keeping the pace as high as possible. No other thoughts creep into your mind at all. But I did notice now that here is AG2R on the left-hand side. They're getting themselves the lead out organised as well. Pressure is on.
This is one of the world's top Pro Tour teams on the left against a ragtag and bobtail Uni SA of very strong professional riders, and they are shoulder to shoulder over the top of Montefiore Hill.
Well, the man leading them there was Cyril Dessel. There he is, going round the corner. He wore the yellow jersey in the Tour de France last year, and now he's riding as a team helper on the front. Little bit of confusion. Jongerwood not far away. Now you can see that two teams are now locked in serious battle as they drop off the hill here, Phil. The pace is high, probably touching 60 kilometers an hour.
The pack is all together, but not really. If you're not in the first 8 or 9 riders now, you won't get a sight of this sprint line. And the Oka jersey is just outside that list here. I think he's relying on his teammates to snatch the bonuses away from the likes of Carl Menzies rather than go for them himself. He might want to keep himself a little bit fit for the final sprint.
Well, Uni SA taking over now. There's Robbie McEwen in about 4th position. I'm not sure why Robbie's right up here going for the sprint. Over on the left-hand side, the blue and white train of AG2R trying to keep their man right up there. I've lost sight a little bit of Carl Menzies, but he will be under a lot of pressure now. It is so important for him to get himself that time bonus, to put himself back in front.
Well, looking down the line too, I can't see Carl Menzies at the moment. Chris Jongerwood will try to know where he is. In fact, McLaughlin's looking over to find out if he can see him. There he is. He's the right just in front, and locked on his wheel is the race leader in the jersey. He knows that he's looking over, and he knows that Elminger's got his back wheel. Davis is just in front, and Robbie McEwen is just in front of Davis. That could be the form when they lead for the line.
Russell Van Hout in 2nd position, waiting to pick up the pace. Very shortly, they're going to swing up into the finishing straight. Van Hout looking over his shoulder. Oh, this is starting to hurt now. You take up the pace, mate. A little bit further back, 3rd place is Robbie McEwen. This, Phil, is going to be like the end of the race. It's such an important sprint, and it's all about the time. It's all about the seconds. Van Hout now digging deep. Look how low he is on the machine. McEwen's up into 3rd. The gold, the bronze, the ochre jersey of the overall leader is not too far away from the front either. There he is in about 8th place.
The ochre jersey, remember, has a 1-second advantage over Menzies. He's riding directly behind Menzies in the slipstream. It's how it all works out when he lines up for the finish here now. This race is spread over about 500 meters just now, as they try to pull it out for what should have been an insignificant sprint here, and it is absolutely crucial. It could turn this race on its head. Terrific pace making there by Robert McLaughlin. On his wheel, number 21 is Robbie McEwen. Now the sprint is starting already as McLaughlin winds it up. McEwen's going to have a go at this, but watch out. The second left is Menzies. The man in the ochre jersey is locked in on him. It's a second separates these. There's 3 seconds for the win. Menzies making his move now as he comes up on the rails here. McEwen's still going. He's moved over as they look over to see where Menzies is. But watch the sprint of Elminger. On the right goes Menzies near it, and I think Elminger has got it. Elminger somehow performed a terrific sprint. We'll have to wait for the confirmation, but for and he thinks so. He's just taken 3 seconds.
Well, look at that face. That is concentration. He knew what he had to do. It was a little bit confusing coming up to that sprint. There were riders moving left and right. He actually took the long way around, but he had the acceleration. Now, Phil, he is just gasping for breath because he pushed him. Look at that acceleration. Jumps right over to the side of the road. They've caught out Robbie McEwen. The lunge for the line, and in fact, Alan Davis pulled his bike there to try and make sure that his teammate actually got the point. Just watch Alan Davis there in the middle. He pulls his machine backwards. First was Elminger. I'm not sure whether or not...
I think he was.
Menzies was 2nd or 3rd.
I think Menzies got 2nd because of what Davies did. It looked good to me. We'll wait for official confirmation, which means now, if that's the case, Elminger now leads this race by 2 seconds. It's not all been lost on that sprint. We're going to be treated to a similar thing when we come round to the end of lap number 12. King of the Mountains halfway around this lap. Now that's the other competition which obviously draws to a close today, and the leader in this competition, the smallest man in the race, Dumoulin, again of the AG2R team. Now, based on the confidence of just seeing their race leader increase his lead, maybe Dumoulin will take part, but he's got to catch these 5 boys first.
Also trying to come across the gap there is the leader of the sprint competition. That looks like Laurent Brochard in that jersey, and he's joined by one of the riders from UniSA. On the front of the main field, it's a little bit of organisation coming from AG2R, but for them, Phil, this is an ideal situation because all the time bonuses are disappearing.
Well, they're coming on, and the way this race is shaped, right at the top end in the red zone by these riders, 3 riders adding strength here. This might be the move that decides the stage. It's great news, of course, for Elminger. It takes away all the bonuses, and he can just ride to the finish as winner of the Tour Down Under. He's not going to chase this. He's going to hope that this breakaway does work. And when you get a man like Brochard on the back, you've got strength as well. I think it's Rob McLaughlin who's come across for UniSA, but bet your life he won't be helping this escape. He wants him to be caught.
This is the climb, and none of these riders, Phil, really, I don't think, worried too much about getting themselves points.
No, they're not. They're not really featuring in the King of the Mountains. There's the line, so that's great news for Dumoulin. 1 King of the Mountains left when we get through halfway on lap 15, and then he'll be crowned the King of the Mountains. I think he's pretty much certain of that now. He can be beaten, but I don't think the combinations are falling for the others today. Just sat on the back of the group here, the man that started it all, Geert Stuurs. He doesn't want to help. He wants this race to come back together. 15 seconds, they're being told.
That'll be to the front end of the main field. That's the biggest advantage I think we've had so far since the start of this race. But halfway across, there still is a 3-man group containing Laurent Brochard, who was trying to make the junction. In fact, they've got themselves almost into contact there. It's a long way, you know, as you get across a gap like this, you feel as if you can almost touch the rider in front, but you can't just quite nail back that last little move. And a Unibet rider as well, which looked very much like the shape of Jeremy Hunt.
This is the sprint this time, and it's going to be totally insignificant for these riders. Watch out for the rider in blue, Brochard, who might like to try and control affairs, because he is the leader of the SA Lottery's blue jerseyed sprint competition, and the bonuses don't mean anything to anybody here.
Well, the other CSC rider who managed to get himself across the gap was the other Aussie rider on Team CSC, Matthew Goss. And that is quite an interesting move by him, because I think CSC will be quite happy with this situation, having 2 riders. They haven't had a whole lot of success out of the Tour Down, and look at Brochard, he's going for this one, Phil.
And I'm not surprised, and I don't think he's going to get too much of a challenge here, because there's really no reason for it. The peloton are coming thundering up. Brochard with a win here has a real chance then of taking this competition out in the finishing sprint. He gets the 6 points there, and that is it gives him 26 now to a possible 18 from Martin Elminger. So I think he stitched this one up. Good riding, clever riding. It's worked out well for the Frenchman. And do you know what? He hasn't slowed down, so he's not waiting for them. Here comes Bocharov, though, quickly on. And it is Sulzberger, Wesley Sulzberger, who got over for the SA.com AIS. But it's the Navigators team who's brought this race back together.
Well, they could see the danger. They didn't have anyone in that leading group, Team Navigators, and they've decided they too are going to pull it all back together, because I've just been throwing out the names of sprinters like O'Grady, like McEwen, but let's not forget Hilton Clark, who's in pretty good form right now as well, and he's on Team Navigators.
Yes, and whatever happened very early on in this race, he was brought back up by all of his teammates who stopped to help him. We didn't see what happened, but I would suspect he had a similar situation to that of Stuart O'Grady.
There was a little bit of an incident just there in the main field. I'm not sure if there was something in the road. It doesn't look as if anyone went down. Yes, you see one of the cones got knocked over, and there's a lot of communication. The riders will shout to each other to make sure that nobody goes down. But if you look at the back end of the main field, Phil, look at the faces of those riders, you get an indication of just how hard the early part of this race has been.
Now the hunchback shoulders there, that is Kula, who is the only man really who could win the King of the Mountains, but he keeps getting the sprint wrong. I believe he sprinted on the wrong lap twice now, and so I think this is still advantage little Dumoulin, who's the rider in that red jersey.
Well, the Lotto rider moving to the front now is Nick Gates. You can see a slight change in the tactics. The Lotto riders being a little bit more attentive at the front end of the main field now, Phil. They will be starting to think about getting themselves sorted out for the charge to the line and trying to set up their man, Robbie McEwen. And the man who will try and set him up to perfection actually had a little bit of a mechanical problem on the Adelaide Classic. Freddie Rodriguez actually jumped his chain off and it got stuck in between the frame and the gears.
Well, we're racing up the hill this time, and you see Kula is not here. He thinks he won the sprint last time around. These two riders are not going to worry Dumoulin, who is keeping watching brief on them. So Dumoulin, I think, has done enough to be the king of the mountains now, and he didn't even contest it.
Well, he's got another thing on his plate, and that is looking after the overall lead, because that's the most important title for these guys if they can get it. The race referees are crackling over on the radio, Phil, and they're saying that that last King of the Mountains point was actually won by Serge Pauwels. And if that is the case, then it looks to me, my quicker arithmetic would mean that he is actually going to be the overall winner of the King of the Mountains. But that's a story I think we'll have to follow with the referees up to the finish.
But now the field is coming up. Now, is this the start of the last lap? I'm not sure. Yes, it is. 1 lap to go. Now they've flown round the circuit today. There is a 6-second bonus for the winner, 4 seconds and 2 seconds for those who follow him. It is technically possible for Carl Menzies to win this race. Elmiger will watch him, but all the sprinters want the victory anyway.
All of the sprinters, and there are so many of them this year, want to get themselves that win. And Elmiger, a true professional bike rider, Phil, riding up at the front end of this group in around about 10th position. He knows also that he's just got to keep a close eye on Carl Menzies, but Menzies himself actually has to win this race to win overall.
The Unibet boys here are looking for one man to finish it off for them, and that will be Baden Cook, the rider from Melbourne, Victoria, who's already won 1 stage. Now comes through the navigators, Sergei Lagutin, himself not a bad finisher, but this time he's looking to set up Hilton Clark and deliver him to the line in first place. Just take a look at these faces now, because these riders are riding just below the red zone of their ability, because they want no one to sprint off the front of this pack. Keep your eyes right too. Those light pink jerseys are the teammates of Robbie McEwen, looking for the whereabouts of McEwen to try and drag him up towards the front. As we search now, the riders in the black and the red shorts there, they are the riders of Chocolat Jacques, and they've won 2 stages out of 4 so far with a sprint finish. Lagutin flicks his arm, says somebody else's turn at the front now, and it's one of his teammates who brings the line through. As they continue now to try and keep this race under pressure, the rider's gone through now. I think he's Erik Garden, the Belgian rider on the Unibet.com team. Sounds as though he's got a Russian name. It's because his parentage is Russian, but he's very much a Belgian rider on the front. Up Montefiore Hill for the last time now. The peloton is a little bit thinner because riders have been dropping out over the last 2 laps, seemingly the pace just a little bit too quick for them. The last man on the corner there was the small figure of Dumoulin, who believes he's won the King of the Mountains competition. I'm not so sure, to be absolutely honest. As we see the riders go over the top. Watch out now, because this is where the sprinters will want to finish it off. 2 riders from Unibet.com looking for the whereabouts of Baden Cook. And Freddie Rodriguez digs deep there, right in the centre. He's looking for Robbie McEwen, and up comes the boys from Barlow World. They want to launch their man, Robbie Hunter, to the line now, or maybe Degano. They've got 2 fast finishers on their squad. And that, in fact, is Hunter first around the corner, so he's not racing for himself. It must be for Degano, Enrico Degano on the team. As he's got the lead now, this time around. A big turn by the man from Johannesburg. And there aren't many top professionals coming out of South Africa, but Hunter is certainly one of them. 2 stages of the Tour of Spain under his belt, and a very narrow miss on the stage of the Tour de France. He brings them wide around the corner. He'll check to see if Enrico Degano is with them. I think he is there in 3rd wheel. As we now come along for the last time. A chance to study Robbie in motion here, the man from South Africa. And dodging the cones there, and he's kicked them into the field, is Martin Elmiger, taking the wrong route really, but the boys safely through, and that was a little bit dangerous. It's throw caution to the wind now as they swing to the right. Robbie Hunter is producing an incredible turn of speed here as the riders behind are ducking and diving, trying to hold wheels. Baden Cook is in there, so too is the champion of New Zealand. You see him with those black bands. Third, the sixth man around is Julian Dean. Looks very much like he might be on the other team of Cook, but he isn't. He's on the Crédit Agricole team of France. Well, Barlow World are going to bring this race to the close, but they're running out of men here on the front. And Degano better watch out. He could be in trouble. Hunter has gone now. His big effort has been made, and it's all over. Hilton Clark is going to have to get in there too. What a long workout this is for the riders as the sprinters try to hold the wheels, mark the men, but not get out in the wind. They will not hit the front till the last 100, 150 meters here. As they now line up for the finish here, watch for the boys in white to break right, because that'll be the team of Dean and Cook. I think Dean just dropped out of it there, but Baden Cook is dodging wheels, fourth man down, and Robbie McEwen is now coming up with a tremendous lead out, and he breaks on the right here, and this looks like Alan Davis has gone for it. Davis is run, Robbie McEwen is coming through, the bobbing and weaving, and McEwen right on the barriers. Well, there's a protest from Mark Renshaw. I don't think Robbie did anything wrong. He wasn't going to give him any room to come through. Mark might have other answers, and the rider from Barlow World says that's not the way to do it. Robbie will have to look at that one again, but if they allow it, and there is a doubt, and there's Baden Cook congratulating him, and there is Carl Menzies also saying well done Robbie, as well as Stephen Katoven was 73. Wow, that was a sprint. Now, I'll have to see it again before I give you my opinion for what it's worth. Watch the wheel. That's what the judges will look at. Now, you see, McEwen isn't moving off his line. He's just not opening the door to allow Renshaw through on the inside. I don't think there'll be a protest there. Paul Sherwen's down there, I can see. And as soon as we can get contact with Paul, we'll get to hear Robbie McEwen's opinion.
Well, Phil, I'm down here on the finish line with Robbie McEwen. You told me before the start, Robbie, that you wanted this one. You're only just getting your breath back, but that was a rip-roaring finish.
Yeah, it was. It was such an aggressive stage and so fast. And in the finish there, there's this wind makes it kind of difficult. And I came off Alan Davis in the middle of the road, but because of the crosswind, I want to be against the left barriers, so I tried to come slowly back across to just cover my lines, and that's a nice way to finish the week.
Well, Robbie, that was very much like a sprint at the finish of the Tour de France. All the big names were there. Everybody was looking for the win. You always ride to the occasion right here in the heart of Adelaide.
Yeah, I love coming here. It's a great stage, always a fantastic crowd, and it's nice to start your year off on a winning note. And I'd been just thinking all week about this very stage.
Congratulations, Robbie. Back to you, Phil. I'm going to see if I can get Martin Elminger as well.
Thank you very much, Paul. Well, I have to say that was a great sprint, and we'll have to wait for the judges to see if they accept any protest there from Mark Renshaw. But certainly, for the time being at least, McEwen has won the final stage of the Tour Down Under, and the man we're looking at there, Martin Elminger, I think we've got him. He's the winner. Back to you, Paul.
Well, I'm with Martin Elminger, the winner of the 2007 Tour Down Under. Team Uni SA went out and laid down the law until that first sprint, but you put in a magnificent gap for them to get that time bonus.
Yeah, it was a hard bonification sprint. It was like a final sprint in the stage, so I was behind Menzi, and I had very good legs today, and in the sprint I was today stronger, and that's why I take the 3 seconds. The second sprint was good for us. On the front was a group, so it was easy behind, and in the final sprint I stay only behind Menzi, so it was okay.
Great job, thank you very much. Back to you, Phil. That was a great win.
So Robbie McEwen does what he did 2 years ago and wins the final stage in Adelaide, this time ahead of Mark Renshaw, Alan Davies, Stephen Katoven and Fabrizio Guidi. In the overall, the final result, Martin Elminger keeps the record of AG2R with a fourth win for the team over Menzies, Back and Matthew Lloyd at 13 seconds. In the sprint competition, it's the grand old man of world cycling, Laurent Brochard, wins that, while in the King of the Mountains, Serge Pauwels takes it on the very last day, on the very last climb. In the young rider competition, Simon Clark, who finishes 10th, gets the Best Under-23 award, and in the team race, it's SA.com/AIS who gets the better of the mighty CSC. Well, there we have it, and it's a great victory for the Swiss champion, and next year will be the 10th year of the Tour Down Under. Be with us. Until then, for Paul Sherwen and all of the team, I'm Phil Liggett saying goodbye for now. A big drive from 5 riders back. It's going to be a tie bomber. I think he'll do it. Goodness me, that'll be the photo. It's one Australian. Feel the rush as colours blur. Feel the rush and hear the burn. But he's done it. Wheels in motion. Hello everybody and welcome to Adelaide in South Australia, and this is now the start of the 2005 cycling season. For the last 7 years now they've been starting their season in the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under, a race which is based over 6 days and a little over 700 kilometres and bringing together 12 of the world's top teams. In all, 90 riders now setting off on a variety of courses, but they're all based here in the city of Adelaide. I'm Phil Liggett, joining alongside me here, Paul Sherwen, all set for another long season in the saddle, Paul. This has drawn, I think, one of the best fields it's ever had.
It certainly has. There's a lot of big names come down. I think the locals will be very interested to see the performances of Gilberto Simoni, the man who's won the Giro d'Italia on 2 occasions. I, however, think that he's here just to start off his campaign to try and win the Giro d'Italia for a 3rd time. The men that really will try and win this bike race are the local favourite, guys like Stuart O'Grady, who's won this event on 2 occasions previously, returning after a sabbatical. He would definitely like to win on home turf, but I think the man who most people expect to do very well is the newly crowned Australian champion, Robbie McEwen.
Well, Robbie McEwen is on fire at the moment, and he's certainly going to be the man to beat in the opening stage. We'll join the action now. It's stage 1 of 6. Not too far away from where we're standing, in fact, over in East Adelaide. There's a crowd approaching 75,000 waiting to see who takes out the first day. It's a 50-kilometre road race. Well, this is the short opener, if you like. It is the hors d'oeuvre. It's 50 kilometres rather, 25 laps times 2, a 2-kilometre circuit. And they're off. Michael Rogers sets them off nearest Camerman.
A world time trial champion on 2 occasions. I think we'll see a very fast race here this afternoon, because after all there is the possibility of a group of riders lapping the field. Now if that happens, there's a new rule being brought in this year, as we mentioned just a little bit earlier, 2 minutes for anybody who can lap the field. And of course there's 6 seconds for the first rider to cross the finishing line. And Phil, in the event this year there is a whole host of magnificent sprinters.
As you can see, as always here, the crowd packed the barriers for the whole of that 2 kilometres. Let's have a look at the route they now face. So this is the opening day of 6, the race starting and finishing in Rundle Road, and then they start to go out on what is a left-handed course as they make their way into East Terrace, and then a left turn along Bartles Road right down to the far side. It's all on open parkland, this right on the edge of this city, as we then get out of Bartles Road into the Ketteville Terrace before we get down to the finishing straight in Rundle Road again. That's 1 lap. Total distance is 2 kilometres. We're going to cover it 25 times. First man back will be the first wearer of the Jacobs Creek yellow jersey. Now let's have a look at the teams here. This is the first page. Quick Step from Belgium, Crédit Agricole France, Liberty Seguros from Spain, Davita Malotto from Belgium, all Tour de France teams. The same to be said for Lampre from Italy, the AG2R team from France, regulars here, Française des Jeux from France itself, and the Cofidis team. That, by the way, is the team of Stuart O'Grady. And completing the 12, Navigators here for a second year from USA, Panaria from Italy, and the two homemade Australians with great riders on, United Water and Uni SA.
You can see they've formed a group of 6 riders there, but everybody's looking over their shoulders. They're very worried about the fact that they don't want to outwit their team leaders here this afternoon, because if they lap the field, it would give a certain number of riders a 2-minute advantage, and that could almost be race over.
1, 2, 3, 6 riders trying to get clear, and a number of teams. Simon Guerin's taking them around the corner there for the French AG2R team. It's his big chance this year, young Simon. He's a rider from Victoria, but he's cracked it and he's on to the big team he's always tried to reach, and now he wants to show them he's worth his place. Driving at the moment, but a quick reaction from the field, and not surprisingly, most of the reaction coming from the Cofidis team of Stuart O'Grady.
Well, Stuart O'Grady racing on home turf. Let's not the first race on the open roads here around Adelaide. There is a serious split in the field there. A general slowing down at the front end of the peloton. It looked like Brett Lancaster in the orange jersey on the front. And he, I would say, is very happy with the composition of this leading group, which is now starting to form.
Well, Jans Koorts, who's been brought onto the Cofidis team, is the man on the front who's due to lead them out. And at this moment in time, Koorts is trying to go for it as well. No, he isn't. He's dropped away from the front. But looking over there, it's Gene Bates who's taken it for Australia. I think Gene got it on the right. We'll have a look at that again if we can.
And that's a real acceleration there. You can see the lunge from the line from this angle. He certainly gets it. And you could see the gap over the front end of the main field.
Well, this is a good lead out for the finish here. 3 riders getting clear. They're all Australian, so they've stitched the sprints up tonight for sure. And it is Bates who's got it. And more points in the bank for Gene Bates. He'll be delighted with that. He's won them both tonight. He's still got to get up well in the sprint, I think, but he should have done enough to become the first leader of the SA Lottery sprint competition. And that's Nozal here of Spain who leads them through, followed by Matt White. Nozal was a big-time leader of the Tour of Spain a couple of years ago. He finished second in that race, losing it on the final weekend in the time trial. And there's been a massive pile-up here. A lot of riders are down. There's a De Vietemont rider clipped his head too. I think he'd be okay, but they're out of the sprint, and that's for sure.
Just have a look. It's a long way down the pack there. Somebody just got rammed from behind there. But as you can see, all of the main contenders managed to get through there safely.
As they're opening the sprint here, it's beginning by Lancaster, but Brownie went very wide. He'll have to recover from that one if he's going to feature. He has. He's now looking round. He sees he's got McEwen on his wheel, the one man he would not like to see locked in on him right now. This is going to be a desperate finish, and also Dimitri Dufour is trying to get in on the act. Now O'Grady launches an incredible attack as he lines up for the finish. Stuart O'Grady has flown away from the pack. McEwen is coming at a canter as he moves out on the outside, and Alan Davis as they come to the line now. McEwen hits the line. It's all a formality. McEwen, Alan Davis, and behind Stuart O'Grady. That was the order as I saw it over the line. Robbie McEwen has lived up to the big reputation he's built himself. He has just got his 4th win of the season, and it is only 18 days old. Just take a look at this. Normally O'Grady had done enough. He'd read it perfectly. Then came Alan Davis, the sprinter who's never won a stage of this race, and at this point he got it. But you don't know McEwen. He lunges for the line, inch perfect. McEwen, the champion of Australia, will wear yellow tomorrow, and gritting his teeth just behind him is Baden Cook, who won this stage in 2003. McEwen, Davis, and O'Grady's hung on for 3rd place, and it looks as though Baden Cook will go across the line in 4th.
When I saw my teammates working so hard at the front, I knew I had to do something to try and repay them, and I got myself in the right position at the end. I think just the few races I've done until now put me that half a step ahead of the Euros, and I was able to get up with a win, so it's nice to win the first stage. Pressure's right off the team now. We've got the leaders' jersey, but there's a long, long way to go in this tour.
Indeed there is, but mission accomplished there for Robin McEwen. He's now won 9 stages in history of this event, and that's 6 more than anybody else. There's the result as we saw it. Alan Davis getting second, Stuart O'Grady in third, and Baden Cook was the rider who came home in the 4th place. In the points competition, Gene Bates did enough out during the race with those 2 sprint wins to get 13 points. Robin McEwen has come up into 2nd place with his win. He got 8 for that. Alan Davis lies 3rd in this competition with 6 points. They're the big sprinters.
So I suppose, as everybody expected, Robbie McEwen taking out stage 1 in a very closely timed sprint. He wears the first yellow jersey of this year's Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under, and the riders move on to stage 2, 150 kilometres out on the open road from Salisbury to Tanunda.
Mike Turter on the right here, the organiser, talking with the organiser of the world's biggest bike race, the Tour de France. And I can tell you, Paul, he's well impressed with what he's seeing here in South Australia.
Jean-Marie Leblanc really enjoying his visit here to the Antipodes and having a lot of good things to say about the Tour Down Under and, of course, about the Australian riders too.
Well, the countdown again by Stuart Doyle and Jimmy Jakes, and they're underway. First time ever we've rolled away from Salisbury in the 7 years this race has gripped the imagination of the public of South Australia. Big cheers for the man on the front in yellow, and that is Robin McEwen. He has now won 9 stages in the history of this race, and that is 6 more than anyone else. And a lovely crowd here. It's a shame we couldn't have stayed around longer. So the 2nd stage then takes the rides away from Salisbury, 150 kilometres, as we head now via Gawler and on towards the finish in Tanunda. Once we get through Gawler, it's a pretty familiar route to those riders who come here on a frequent basis, although a visit through Williamstown, there's a special sprint there. Then it gets a little bit of undulations as we begin to climb the mountains over Smith Hill onto Mount Pleasant for the final sprint. And then it's not downhill, but we tour through the Barossa Valley as we head through Angaston and Nurriupta and make our way through Greenock and down Seppelts Field and into the finish at Tanunda. Slightly downhill finish, high spot of 600 metres. And onto the open highway now, and a breakaway. Here it is, Delange, Mackenzie, Bodrogi and O'Loughlin, the champion of Ireland, just getting clear of the field, Paul. We're about 20 kilometres in.
A lot of riders will pay very much attention to these early breakaways this year because they remember what happened last year when on the first day on the open road the race was almost done and dusted.
And a move coming here, and that is Russell Van Hout. Well, I didn't think we'd keep him in the pack too long.
You see, Phil, when you've got a gap of 5 minutes and 40 seconds, it's not really a very good tactical move to try and ride across. The 4 riders at the front, as you can see, are building up a massive advantage, 5:40. And poor old Russell Van Hout, I think, is going to get caught in the middle of the gap in what we call no man's land.
But this is a long way, 150 kilometres, and it looks as though Van Hout didn't get across the gap. He was trying, and he's actually, I think, seen common sense there, Paul, and waited for the pack. He wasn't going anywhere. Moving on into Williamstown now, 47 kilometres covered, first time bonus sprint, and this is a surprise. It is indeed, because Mackenzie didn't get up. It was, in fact, Michael Delage, the newcomer, and the youngest man in the race at 19. Just take a look around this corner, because this road just kicks. There it is. It kicks right up to the lines. It bears left. And that has caused Michael Delage. He's not afraid of the older men. He's not 20 years of age till August this year. He's the youngest man in the Tour. Mackenzie's giving it his best shot. I don't think he's going to get up there. And it is Delage who really fought that one out. He's even put his hand up to make sure the judges see him. But there's no doubt he's won the points.
I think we've got 2 teams at the front here forming an alliance to try and pull the 4-man breakaway back. They've reduced the 5.5-minute advantage to 1.5 minutes, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them kicking it up as we get a little bit closer now to the next sprint point of the day.
This is the breakaway. The man in green at the front. Twist of irony, because he rides on the team that Stuart O'Grady actually did ride for when he won this race in 1999, Crédit Agricole from France. But there we are, we're heading up to the sprint now in Mount Pleasant, 85 kilometres to go. Delange is still having a go here, but this time I think David Mackenzie has worked it out. Shoulder to shoulder, the older man gets it on the line, so Mackenzie gets a valuable 3 seconds time bonus, and it is Michael Delange there, who this time, having won the first 2 prizes of the day, has to be content. This doesn't look good here. It looks as though Mackenzie has quite a stitch.
I think he might have actually just pulled something there. He's the oldest man in the breakaway at 30 years of age, but I think just then, as he lunged for the line, he might just have injured his stomach muscles a little bit, and that's what happens when you have to try and pull yourself inside out to try and get a sprint bonus win.
Here comes the peloton. 1 minute 25 is the official time gap as they come through Mount Pleasant.
This is Mackenzie. Mackenzie actually must have really injured himself then, because he was left behind by that leading group of 4. So there are now just 3 riders at the front end of the main field, holding on still precariously to a 1 minute and 20 seconds advantage.
And O'Loughlin also has now sat up. The breakaway is beginning to crumble. It doesn't look good. And these are the riders now, and they've all come together, and it was a breakaway which lasted 125 kilometres on today's stage of the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under, but it's going to be a sprint. And I'm surprised that nobody, Paul, has tried to get away from the front of this race, because surely they are now playing into the hand of the big sprinters.
Once you've laid yourself on the line for the team leader, get out of the way, get out of danger, and try and recuperate if you can over the last few hundred metres. At the front, a lot of risks will be being taken now by the sprinters. They'll be trying to get themselves into the ideal position, and the sprint is now opening up.
Well, they're starting to go for the line now, and we've still got a big mix of riders here. McEwen trying to get in on turns, but he's out of it at the moment. On third wheel, I think, as they come over the hill. As the police move out of the way now, McEwen coming on the left here. He's taking on Grillo, I think it is, on the line. McEwen has come off the wheel of Grillo, the Italian on the Panera team. He has come through for his second win, the first time he's ever taken out the first 2 stages of the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under. He has now won 10 stages of this race in its history, and look how easy he makes it. It tips downhill just a little bit. McEwen comes over the top. Alan Davis will have to be content this time with third, and he was second last time out. Unbelievable that, a half a length victory for McEwen. An interesting sprint there by Paride Grillo. We would have expected Graham Brown, but in fact it was Grillo, his teammate, who took it out there for second. But McEwen, with 2 out of 2, has actually increased his overall lead. Let's have a word with him.
Well, Robbie, yesterday you told me you weren't feeling all that good and you came out with a win. How were the legs this afternoon?
I want to stop saying it, but I didn't feel great. But my team did so much work today, because, you know, if we hadn't organised to ride, and also with a couple of guys from Cofidis and from Liberty Seguros, that could have been the Tour riding away those few guys. We've seen it happen last year with Pat Yonka. Even though he's very strong and was dominant throughout the rest, you can really give the Tour away in a break like that. So we decided to control, and I saw how much my boys have been riding on the front today and suffering themselves, so I had to do something at the finish, and I chose the right wheels, got through the gaps, and saw the finish at the right time. I think a few guys mistimed their sprint with that other arch across the road, and I got through, and it's nice winning. I love it.
He certainly does. 2 out of 2 for Robin McEwen so far, this time beating Grillo, Davis, O'Grady and Erik Putsep, taking the 5th place for AG2R. Overall, it means that McEwen now leads the race by 6 seconds over Alan Davis, 7 over Delage, who comes in at 3rd, and Mackenzie is now in at 4th, 7 back. In the SA Lotteries King Sprint Points competition, Robin McEwen has 18 and 12 on Gene Bates, while in the Loban and Pank King of the Mountains competition, Michael Delage is the first leader here, 16 points for him. Mackenzie was second over the mountain, he's on second, and O'Loughlin on third.
After taking the Australian national title just a week before the start of this race, Robbie McEwen certainly is on fire. Win number 2 in 2 days. But watch out for the other Australians, because Alan Davis and Stuart O'Grady are showing to be very consistent competitors. The riders move on to stage 3, a slightly shorter stage at 139 kilometres from Glenelg to Victor Harbour.
It's Robbie McEwen a full house at the moment, 2 out of 2.
Robbie McEwen very confident, very dominant, but I think all the riders today feel just a little bit worried about the change in the climatic conditions. Temperatures drop down about 12 degrees Celsius, but more important, I think, is the very strong winds that are buffeting in off the coast.
That's right, the riders will wind away in a southerly direction once they get clear of Glenelg. It's a 7 kilometres neutralised section today, and the riders must be aware of the tram lines. We've seen 1 or 2 spectators take a tumble arriving by bicycle this morning and being guided into the centre of those tram lines. Here the riders go out on towards the Southern Expressway where the race itself will start. Mike Turter climbing back into the cockpit, getting the riders underway. They're now facing 139 kilometres, starting at the moment into the headwind, and we can now have a look at exactly where they're going today as they make the way from Glenelg to Victor Harbour. And not a particularly hilly stage, but we go due south, heading towards the first climb of the day, which is Selix Hill. We go over Selix Hill on the same main road, and it'll be a headwind up there as we then change direction. Then it'll become a crosswind as we head through Mount Compass, where there's a time bonus sprint, and then they'll continue on to Goolwa, where there's another time bonus sprint at 92 kilometres. Then we go back on ourselves, just skirt Victor Harbour, a circuit around before we return to Victor Harbour for the big finish. And straight away, Paul, attacks are coming. This looks like Inigo Charot of the AG2R team.
Not surprising. I think everybody realises that Robbie McEwen doesn't want to assassinate his team over the next few days. They've been on the front of a lot over the last 2 days, controlling the tempo, making sure all of the breakaways are brought back into the fold. And at the back, there's a crash here. That's Graham Brown there on the left-hand side. And this was at the back end of the race here, and it was just a question of touching handlebars. And Brownie there, number 91, looks down like he's gone down quite hard.
29 kilometres at the moment, and the split has been on for a few kilometres. I'm not surprised, though, that the bunch does not want to let this group go, Paul, because there are some big names here, including Stuart O'Grady. A little bit of a panic right now. And 11 of them are in this breakaway with 1 or more riders. Some have got 4 riders here. And as we get on to Selix Hill at 44 kilometres to go, it's Gene Bates coming clear. Bates gets the King of the Mountains points there, followed over the line by the man in black, David O'Loughlin, and third will be David McPartland. Those 3 riders are clear. Their lead 1 minute and 6 seconds. And this is bound to see a big battle here, and O'Grady's got a mix in it too. The gap is continuing to open, and you see McEwen now finding the weight of the maillot jaune, the race leader's yellow jersey, being left behind. Into Mount Compass now, and as we expected, it's a battle. The man breaking in, though, is the Italian, and the Italian rider, Grillo, just getting there. I think he may have got that. Let's have another look. Grillo in the orange jersey. Davis is the challenger. Big effort by Davis, a late lunge, but Grillo got it. Davis second and O'Grady third, Gene Bates there in 4th place. So that means, Paul, that the 3 seconds from Grillo, Davis is still the leader. Just Grillo closes in and O'Grady stays up in 3rd.
The clock right now is tickling around about 10 minutes in arrears for this group, so I would say the race is over for these men. 11 teams represented in the front group of 26 riders. Nobody really now has got the heart to chase, and Robbie McEwen, I think, realises the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under is down and out for him at all this year. There he is at the back of the group with his teammates. They realise they've had a very good start, dominated the first 2 days. Right now, it's all over.
Davis has his teammates Oren Kemps here, Javier Ramirez and Luis Sanchez, and they're working for him to try and take him to the line in first place. But here comes trouble again. A big battle here from the Italian. He's wobbling a little bit. Davis may have him this time. Oh, that was very, very close. It was a game between Grillo, Davis and O'Grady. O'Grady got 3rd, but I'm not too sure who got the valuable 3-second bonus. Can we tell here? A lunge at the line. I would give that to Davis, and so have the judges, so he gets the 3 seconds. Grillo gets 2, and Stuart O'Grady, 3rd again, gets 1. There are now 26 riders can win this race on Sunday, not just 2, because look at this. They're more interested in the stage win. The one that wins will be the next leader of the Tour.
The gap, though, is just down to 30 seconds. Looking back, the race referee there looking over his shoulder, probably a very nervous man, because there are a number of cars in that gap. Van Sommeren there in the back in the red and white jersey, 400 metres to go, very nervous. These 2 riders waiting for the twitch, waiting for the sound. The acceleration's coming, and it's coming from the Belgian.
But he's gone at some 300 metres out, and that, I think, is far too early by Johan Van Sommeren. It's a long way up this home straight. Once upon a time, Stuart O'Grady was the winner here, and he knows how far it is to the line. And look at that, with all of the ease, Luis Sanchez goes over the top. Van Summeren is absolutely livid with himself, completely made a mess of that. But there is the man who's got his first win of the season, and indeed the first ever Spanish cyclist to win a stage of the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under. And that is an excellent victory for him. Let's have a look at the angle here. He wins clearly, of course. Van Summeren knew he was losing that way out. This is the race for third place now. Only a few seconds, 16, that's all has gone by. Gene Bates, Robert McLaughlin and Javier Ramirez. That is the order over the line. In comes the next group, and they're coming in at just on 30 seconds behind, led over the line here by Laszlo Badrogi. And the big question is, of course, well, did Sanchez think it was a bit risky to go for the win so far from the finish? Well, the answer was, he says, I thought I would make a move and tire Stuart O'Grady out. It made the other teams work a bit, and eventually that's just the way it worked. I went out because Stuart O'Grady was always following Alan Davis.
Yeah, well, we felt the whole team has felt good since you know, the first start of the crit on Tuesday night. So, and today we tried to get in all the breakaways, and we were expecting a tough start to the stage, and that's what happened. And yeah, it's a full credit to the guys. You know, they were in everything today, and it worked out well.
There's the stage result. Luis Sanchez, same time as Johan van Summeren, 16 seconds ahead of Gene Bates, who got the same time as Robin McLaughlin and Javier Ramirez. Overall, it's now Sanchez who becomes the Spanish leader of this race by 2 seconds. Alan Davis, his teammate, is third. Grillo sprinting well is fourth, and Stuart O'Grady still well there, 20 seconds off the lead in fifth place. In the SA Lottery Sprint competition, it's Alan Davis with 20 points. McEwen is second in this, along with Gene Bates. And in the Loban and Pan King of the Mountains, Gene Bates 20, same as David O'Loughlin. Bates takes the leader's jersey.
Well, we expected stage 3 to be difficult, but I don't think Robbie McEwen expected to lose 31 minutes and the overall classification. A new name popping up to the top now, Luis Leon Sanchez of Liberty Seguros. The riders now move on to a more difficult stage, stage 4, from Unley to Harndorf, with a very tough Checker Hill right in the middle.
As the race now prepares to roll away, all 92 riders signing on, Paul. They've got to watch the mood today, because this race so often decided by seconds.
Well, let's not forget, this is the longest stage of the race, 152 kilometres, and I think we can see a very fast start in hand for everybody, because there's a very long climb away from the starting line here. And the rumour on the starting line from most of the riders is 1 or 2 men are ready to go from the gun, as they say in cycling jargon.
Absolutely. All smiles as they leave Unley, this delightful little hamlet just outside of Adelaide. And the street party last night attracting once again thousands and thousands of people. And it looks as though 1 or 2 might have been rather late to bed. This is Johan van Summeren lying second in the race. Mike Turder getting ready to pull in the flag. He's actually told all the cars to give the riders room at the start. They expect attacks. Let's see where they're going. Here we are, as Paul has said, 152 kilometres, the longest stage of the race, and it's all familiar territory, this. We move away back into the Adelaide Hills from the old toll gate as we continue heading out towards the sprint at Echunga, then on towards Checker Hill, which is a real steep climb, and then keep on going as we go towards Woodside at 119 kilometres. We visit Harndorf twice in opposite directions before we actually come through for the finish.
Well, you can see as they start the climb here, it looks as if 2 riders have already decided to like the blue touch paper and get away from the main field as quickly as possible. One of them is a former winner of the race, Mikel Astroloza. He's the taller rider in the front. These 2 riders, both Spanish, both on the same French AG2R team. The man in second place there is Inigo Charot, but you know what? They're not giving any free tickets at the moment. Charging off the top of the mountain, though, it's all very much back together as the riders now head down to the first sprint point of the day, and it's going to be very important here to see who gets across the line in first place.
Well, this is the charge into Echunga, which was home of the South Australian National Championships just the other day, won by Robin McEwen. Now it's a very different sprint, and coming through here is Grillo. Grillo taking it out. He's proving to be quite a sprinter, this man. He also gets a valuable 3 seconds bonus. But watch out here, Paul. Stuart O'Grady gets second. These are the leaders and beginning to speed away because the main field have assessed that none of these riders are going to gain half an hour today. But that because of the small time bonuses at the finish, this really isn't helping some of the riders like Stuart O'Grady and Gene Bates. There's a few local spectators there that shouldn't be that side of the fence.
1 kilometre away from the summit of the climb, and Baliani, there he's made the junction. We didn't see it happen, but we're now looking at 6 riders at the front of the group. That was a very fine effort by the Italian. He bridged a 40-second gap. Portal getting a slight advantage here, trying to get himself maximum points at the top here of Checker Hill.
Baliani, who's taken a few deep breaths and gone on the steepest part of the climb, is coming up in second position. Always a good crowd here. Checker Hill was on the very first route of the Tour Down Under back in 1999. And there is a big effort by Baliani. He is a good climber, we know that, and he's gone straight over the top of Portal. He will get the King of the Mountains on Checker Hill. Baliani, Portal second over the top. And a big round of applause there for the man in the orange jersey. Just see if we can see who goes through in third place. And in the distance there, I think I can tell you it's Matt White who's over in third. The main field at 3:40.
No passengers at all in this leading group of 6. Everybody working, everybody has got a lot to gain, and you just have a look at that. Almost 100 kilometers an hour on the descent. You can see the main field on the front end being controlled by the team of the leader, Liberty Seguros. They have actually no real reason, Phil, to chase down that leading group of 6. All of the riders in that 6-man breakaway were more than 31 minutes behind in yesterday's stage, so they can actually take a breather. And if Liberty Seguros was to ride on the front every day and chase every breakdown, they wouldn't have enough resources left to control the race towards the end. And let's not forget that this race is still only separated really by a few seconds. The second sprint point of the day, which is going to be pretty important for Robbie McEwen, but there's no challenge at all here as he goes across the line, gets himself 3 seconds, but for him, what's more important is the points in the points classification.
Yes, because that's given him the lead in the LA Lottery, in the SA Lottery sprint competition, which is what he wanted right now, because he gave away his yellow jersey yesterday as race leader. Now he's got the lottery sprint leadership, and one would expect him to win the stage too, and if he does, then he will increase his lead in that competition even more.
But Matty White, Phil, as you say, looking for his first win since 1999, and now he knows he's got it.
Now he's going to absolutely enjoy the moment. It's been a long time in coming. He's such a popular bike rider here. He's the rider who didn't make the Tour de France 2 hours before it was due to start. He crashed and broke his collarbone. This time, it is only good news for Matt White. Take all the time in the world to enjoy the moment. Look over your shoulder, see the sprint, and it's a traditional one. McEwen taking second. He would have won if White hadn't have escaped, but White did. McEwen gets second. He's coming right up behind him, and congratulations all round. That is a very, very nice gesture. And in third place is Sébastien Joly of the Crédit Agricole team from France, and Frédéric Finot, another Frenchman there, coming in fourth. Now this is the rest of the race coming in. Over 3.5 minutes have passed by, 3:42 in fact. Let's have a word with Matt.
Matty, that was a pretty hard start to the stage, but getting away in a move like that takes the pressure off your own teammate, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. You know, like Stewie, there was plenty of breaks today, but none of them are going to work with any of those 26 riders in. And I kept attacking and saw guys. You know, there's one guy who was in the group yesterday, and it's not going to work. And it was sort of funny. There was Robbie and Joly were away, and then 2 or 3 of us jumped across. And then once we got that little gap, you know, we know Liberty were rooted, and they had to let us go. You know, they'd be mad if they chased all day. They'd put themselves in the hurt box.
But what's interesting is it puts this victory, I think, puts a lot of your bad memories behind you, and you waited a long time for this one.
Hey, you're not telling me nothing. 6 years. I've won a few races here in Oz, but you know, international racing. Last race was through a Swiss.
Well, it's all good now, Matthew. There he is, the winner today. 2 seconds ahead of Robbie McEwen. Same time then for Joly, Finot and Baliani there in 5th place. Overall, the change is not really significant. Sanchez still has 2 seconds over Van Summeren. Grillo gets a couple of seconds time bonus. He's at 12. Looking further down in the lottery sprint points, McEwen gets the lead here now. 6 points ahead of Grillo in the King of the Mountains. Gene Bates keeps his jersey here, shares on points with O'Loughlin. Baliani comes in third.
I think that was a very popular winner for everybody in the main field because Matty White has been chasing a victory since 1999. But the leader at the top end of the overall classification, Sanchez, never at all put under pressure. The riders now move on to the 5th stage, a very difficult stage and one which may be crucial for the men at the top end of the overall classification, the circuit race around Wollonga, with Wollonga Hill right at the very end, just 15 kilometres to go.
And there is the new man on the block, Sanchez, looking extremely confident, Paul.
He looks very confident, but I think most importantly, he's got a very strong team around him. And if he were to falter, there are a couple of other riders in the squad there who can take over. One of them is Australian teammate Alan Davis. These dark guys today, Phil, know that this is the crucial stage of the race.
Well, 90 left in the Tour from the 96 originals, and they're on their way now. They do 3 circuits around Aldinga Beach before we get on to the big climb. It's turning out to be a beautiful day, but the temperature's still down by South Australian standards. And yes, there's plenty of Italians supporting here.
What a magnificent crowd here, seeing the riders off on this 147-kilometre route.
And now we're heading out towards the beach route to start off the race. This is going to be, and as we expected, and we did expect this, the attack's coming right from the gun with Kevin de Weert. All right, where's he going? Well, there's the course for you, up to over 400 metres at the end. But before then, 3 circuits taking in the beautiful Aldinga Beach, where there'll be 2 time bonus sprints on 2 of the 3 laps there. Back through Wollonga each time, but on the end of the 3rd circuit, we go straight on. We climb the old Wollonga Hill to 400 metres, then plunge down at over 100 kilometres an hour back into town for the finish.
Well, last year the stage was very much like this as well. There was attack after attack on the opening flat circuits, and that is very good for the end of the race because what will happen, it will really toughen up the event. This young man here, Gene Bates, the leader of the King of the Mountains classification, has been very aggressive since the start. He too is on the eve of a rendezvous with a very big performance if he can move up in the overall classification. He, with a good ride overall here, Phil, has a good chance of moving into a top European pro team.
And how's that for a view as they cheer the riders past, as they have done on many occasions here during the years of the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under. That's the scene for the big sprint as we move on along the coast here. Now this is the charge, and this time around it's a time bonus sprint. The boys in orange are trying to get Griot over the line first. McEwen wants to get involved because he's in this competition with the blue leader's jersey. He's on 3rd wheel behind the boys in orange. Now he's trying to come through, and look at this for speed. He may have made a mistake, but no, oh, they've almost collided there, Griot and McEwen, and again with Graham Brown, but he's through, and he's going to take this, McEwen. He gets the points. He is not very happy about that.
He's not very happy at all about that. First of all, he was in the breakaway. He was chased down by the Panaria riders, but just look at that little move there. Robbie is such an agile bike rider. He manages to avoid one incident, then a second, and the anger accelerates him and propulses him to the line. But Robbie's got such incredible form at the start of this season. Let's not forget he won the Australian national titles just a week before this event. Well, I have a feeling Robbie may be just a little bit worried about the final climb of the day and wondering whether or not he's going to be able to get himself over that, which is why he's really tried hard out on the open road.
These are 3 riders who've got themselves to the front now, and another attack is being launched. In fact, I've got a feeling if this is Contador who's come up here, all on the same team. There's about 4 or 5 riders here from Liberty Seguros, and 3 of them trying to push on, and he's picked up his team captain. He's trying to pace him to the top. Hats off to Van Summeren. He's not a climber of note, and he's just hanging on to the coattails of the race leader. They are separated after 5 days by just 2 seconds, and a marvellous crowd on the climb here as we head up towards the summit. It is going to be at the King of the Mountains points for those 3 riders, and it is Contador who gets them. He sprints well clear, and over the top behind will have come Van Summeren and the race leader himself.
Well, this is a very fine move, but I think tactically what he needs to do now is wait for his leader, the man who's wearing the yellow jersey, because those 2 men together can put a serious amount of pressure on that small group. It's a 6-man group there containing Stuart O'Grady and Alan Davis. But the yellow jersey hasn't given up. In fact, he's looked over his shoulder and seen that these men just behind him are not chasing down the gap, and he's decided to carry on and see if he can join Contador, and he has done. These 2 men aren't worried at all. It doesn't matter which one of them crosses the line in first place, because the victory goes to the team. The team has been dominant here this afternoon. Liberty Seguros started the day in the yellow jersey, and they are really consolidating here.
Well, they just keep checking over their shoulders. They won't know that the team captain, Alan Davis, is chasing. And now they keep looking and waiting. I think they might know.
I tell you what, I have a feeling, you look at Contador there, he's really suffering. He's pulled everything inside out. I think they're having a bit of a chat here, trying to stay together. You know what, I've just remembered that Contador in second place there, Phil, had a very nasty accident just about 12 months ago in the Vuelta a Asturias in Spain. He actually had an aneurysm in the race, blacked out and crashed, and very, very dramatically was taken off to hospital. The same thing happened about 15 days later. He's come back from serious injury and illness, and that's probably the first time he's raced, I think, in that length of time. But look at this. This is congratulations. Thanks a lot for a great job done.
And this is the yellow jersey of the Tour Down Under, indicating that it's his teammate who should be getting the applause as they come to the line. It's his teammate who made the attack that brought the yellow jersey to the front. And in fact, Luis Sanchez is going to allow his teammate now, Alberto Contador, to take his first ever road racing victory. Well, this is something we've never seen in this race in its 7-year history, and we're going to see a 1-2-3 from the same team as well. Davis is on his way. Contador takes the stage win. Sanchez consolidates his yellow jersey situation. Now let's see if we can see Alan Davis coming up down the road.
But this has been a fabulous move by the man in the yellow jersey. There's Davis. He's lost a few seconds as he comes up to the line. They're around about 22, but this is going to really make it very dominant. In fact, it looks as if Liberty Seguros got fourth as well.
That's right. Ramirez has got a 1-2-3-4. Well, Luis Sanchez, the race leader of the Tour, I reckon, you know, he can relax just a little bit now. Well, that's true. A little less pressure, he's saying, but the fact is we have one of the best sprinters in the world in Alan Davis.
Well, Alan, everyone was talking about the challenge coming to Liberty Seguros, but I think today you answered all those questions.
Yeah, that's pretty much how we plan the day, to keep it controlled and up the climb, you know, just attack and sort of see who can go with us. And those two young guys up the front, they're showing how much talent they've got, and they attacked at the top of the climb, and there was a lot of guys swapping off at the back, and myself and Javier Ramirez, we just had to just control the chase group and, you know, just race tactics, and that's how it panned out. Great for the team.
Incredible for the team. Look at that. All of them from the same team in the first 4 places. And then David McPartland, the circuit race champion of Australia, he came home in 5th place for United Water. Overall, Sanchez moves out now from 2 seconds to 35 seconds in the lead, but he's ahead of his own teammate now, Alan Davis. So Grady comes into 3rd. Van Summeren just drops down into 4th. In the sprint points competition, McEwen increases his lead over Alan Davis here. And in the King of the Mountains, no change at all amongst the top 3. Bates and O'Loughlin still locked together on 20, and there's 2 mountain points to be gained tomorrow.
If anybody had any questions about the supremacy of Liberty Seguros, I think they were answered on stage 5. A great performance by the overall leader, Sanchez, extending his lead in the overall race, but a nice, I think, emotional win for his teammate Alberto Contador, coming back from that very dramatic illness. At the end of the day, the riders then rolled down into Adelaide for the final stage, stage 6, right around the very heart of the city. It should be a promenade, a day for the riders to show off their jerseys. But you know, racing in the city centres is always very difficult.
88 survivors of the 96 starters in this year's Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under, but one man under a bit of pressure, my co-commentator Phil Liggett, who's having a little bit of a problem with his throat. So all of the riders moving away now, starting very quickly off the front there. Michael Rogers in the black jersey as yesterday's most aggressive rider, and I think he'll be looking to try and get himself the victory in the latter part of this race if he can. He's the kind of rider who would really try and get himself off the front and surprise the sprinters. But there's a lot of very good sprinters in this race. McEwen obviously looking for the win. Baden Cook, Stuart O'Grady, Alan Davis, Graham Brown, all men who are very used to winning final stages of stage races just like this one. As you can see, we're off to a very fast start. These guys are going to rip around this 81-kilometre route right in the very heart of Adelaide City. And of course, it was basically based around King William Road. Expect high speeds, pretty much up around 50 kilometres an hour as the riders charge away from the starting line here at King William Road and make their way down the other side across the River Torrens and then head up the very difficult Montefiore Road as they go around the Adelaide Oval. Once again, they go around the University Oval, head back down to the river again, and then on the final turn, it's up for the last 450 metres, slightly uphill towards the finish line. And it's a magnificent day here in Adelaide for the final day of the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under. And as we can see, already a small breakaway, just forcing an advantage over the front end of the main field. And I should think this will be the scenario for the majority of this stage here this afternoon. It's the dark blue jerseys of Liberty Seguros all the way around and protecting their leader in the yellow jersey, Luis Leon Sanchez, just 21 years of age. We've pulled the breakaways in. It looks like, if we can see just coming down the outside, there's Robbie McEwen in the blue. Coming up through the middle, there's Stuart O'Grady in the white jersey. But look at that on the line. Thank you very much. Sprint number 1 goes to Robbie McEwen, who extends his advantage there in the SA Lottery sprint competition. And again, a small move going off the front. We've now covered 9 laps of 18 here, and this is a former winner of the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under, Mikel Astroloza. He hasn't actually won another race in his career, though, but they're not getting very far. Look at that. Here's the main field, charging up the finishing straights at half distance, and I should think in a few moments' time it will be all back together. The complete peloton charging around this city circuit. Russell Van Houten, but we can now see the formation of a 4-man group at the top. That's Baliani from Panaria, teammate of Graham Brown, just making the junction as we go off to start Montefiore Road, and this time it will count for the King of the Mountains classification. But the main field, as you can see, is really not that very far behind. And there at the front end of the group, you just caught a glimpse of the jersey of the King of the Mountains leader, Gene Bates, being led round the corner there by one of his teammates. Right on his wheel there, you can see one of the riders from Navigators, but in 4th position, that's David O'Loughlin, the Irish national champion. A big opening up here of the acceleration by the Navigators, and I think they've caught Bates off guard. Bates, no, he hasn't. He's been recovering there. He's got back into the wheel of the Irish champion, and now he's going to open up his sprint. He needs to get across the line in front of the Irishman here if he's going to get himself the lead. As they go around the corner, look at the gap he's got. Gene Bates, 24 years of age, big acceleration, gets the maximum points there. That will put him into the lead, but there's one more sprint to go. But it looked to me if there was a little error there as we came up to the line, because the Navigators rider should have braked a little bit, and O'Loughlin actually went across the road in 3rd place. Betts and Cunningham still holding on to a fairly sensible advantage, hovering around about the 30-second mark as the main field just cruises around not too far away from the River Torrens in the very heart of Adelaide. But I really don't believe that they're going to survive all the way to the finish, because there's some very big sprinters in the race this afternoon who would like to see the whole of this race come back together. And in fact, you can see there is no real challenge here for the sprint at all, because it looks to me as if Dave Betts is going to take it very comfortably. He'll be the first man to cross the line. No challenge at all coming from Cunningham. And that's actually a very sensible thing to do, because these two riders need to share the pacemaking as they head down towards the finish. Well, it looks as if there's been a little bit of an incident here, because somebody has disappeared away from the leading group. This is Dave Betts, and I do believe that Steve Cunningham has had a mechanical incident, because all of a sudden he disappeared from the front of the bike race. It will be a bit of a negative, I think, the loss of Steve Cunningham there. And although we didn't see it, we are really hearing that, in fact, what happened to him was he had a front wheel puncture, a fairly slow change, and he will very shortly be dragged back into the main field. And as you can see, the main field are boring down upon him. This is going to be very difficult for him to survive, because he's got about 2.5 kilometers, I think, to the summit of the climb. That's the team of David O'Loughlin. He's in 2nd place at the moment, separated only by 8 seconds. The man leading them round, Nathan O'Neill, the Australian time trial champion, the overall leader, the man who started this day in the yellow jersey with a 35-second advantage over his own teammate, Alan Davis, is starting to look a lot more relaxed and comfortable as we head down towards the finishing line. As these laps tick by, he gets just that little bit more confident, knowing that his first big overall victory in a stage race is almost at hand. That's a bad sign. When you see the race referee's car being pushed out of a gap like that, you know as a bike rider that the gap has come inside of 30 seconds, and you know it's coming down very rapidly. Can Betts survive to the summit of the climb here? He's going to start to climb Montefiore Hill, and no, I don't think he will, because here's the main field, led by the Navigators. There is O'Loughlin in 4th position. He really needs to try and get this in 6th position, though. There is Gene Bates. Bates' teammates looking after him, swinging across the left-hand side of the road. Bates is trying to hold on here, but it's going to be very, very difficult. Well, in fact, he's been swept up. Look at this big acceleration here. There you can see just on the right-hand side is Bates, but the big sprint is going to be between the 2 men at the top of this competition. Gene Bates is coming round, hugging the corner, getting as close to the barriers as possible as they come into the last 50 metres. It's Bates ahead of O'Loughlin, and that means that Gene Bates is going to be the winner of the King of the Mountains classification to add to his 2 under-23 titles. Only 24 years of age right now, but I tell you what, this man is turning out to be a very aggressive bike rider in the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under. You never see Robbie McEwen in a sprint like this up until the very last moment, and that's the important thing about being a sprinter. But it's Matty White all over the front of this bike race now, keeping the pace nice and high. He wants to make sure that Stuart O'Grady doesn't get swamped. There's O'Grady. They're up now towards the finishing straight, taking the final bend of the race, and you can see now the acceleration is starting to get open. FDJ.com still accelerating in the front. Stuart O'Grady now goes right the way through the middle. It looks as if O'Grady's got the jump on everybody here, but look on the left-hand side in the blue, that's Robbie McEwen coming up towards the line. McEwen is the one who lunges, and McEwen is the one who gets win number 3 here. He won the first 2 stages, Robbie McEwen, and now he's taken out the last one. That makes this his 11th stage victory at the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under over the years. What an amazing performance by Robbie McEwen. He timed it to perfection, and once again I'm absolutely certain he's going to say a very big thank you to his teammates, because they did a superb job of pulling it all back together. The man who was second across the line was Paris de Griot, and Alan Davis had to settle up for 3rd place. But the winner is absolutely and certainly Robbie McEwen. The man from Queensland really is fast.
Robbie, absolutely fantastic. You love the final sprints, and you've done it again here on the final stage in Adelaide.
Yes, no, I love a sprint. I love a final sprint, and I love the last stage in Adelaide. It's a course that I really love. The crowd's fantastic. My teammates worked really hard, and I love being able to repay them. It's just great.
A wonderful finish, a wonderful result. Did you come to Adelaide thinking you could win?
Buena carrera, buen resultado. ¿Has venido a Adelaide pensando que podrías ganar?
No, la verdad que había preparado muy bien el invierno, pero con cara a París-Niza, la verdad que ha salido bastante bien.
I had a great winter, getting ready for this race. I was basically getting ready for the races a bit further on through the year, and I didn't really come here with high expectations, but not for the win.
Certainly a great win, though, for Robbie McEwen. Win number 3 at the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under, just ahead of Paris de Garillo and Alan Davis getting 3rd. Stuart O'Grady tried, but ended up in 5th place. At the top end of the overall classification, not really any changes on the last day. Luis Sanchez, 33 seconds ahead of his teammate Alan Davis, and the local boy Stuart O'Grady in 3rd. Robbie McEwen did win the sprints competition as well, sponsored by SA Lotteries, ahead of Paris de Griot. And the King of the Mountains, Gene Bates, just ahead of David O'Loughlin after a battle that went right down to the very last day. The yellow jersey, well, this is a name we'll hear over the next couple of years, I'm absolutely certain. Luis Leon Sanchez of Liberty Seguros has won the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under, and I think we'll see him win on a number of occasions later on during the season as well.
Well, I'm pretty sure celebrations will go on into the night, especially for the Spanish Liberty Seguros team, because they did come here and they certainly conquered. They were a brilliant team, and they found an extraordinarily good winner in the young rider, Luis Sanchez. Paul, that was a name we never even thought of.
Well, we hadn't thought about it, but the team certainly had, because before the start of this race, they thought that he had a very good chance of winning the bike race overall. And I think we'll have to follow his progress over the next couple of years. It was also good to see Alberto Contador coming back after a very nasty accident last year to get himself a victory. And of course, as always at the Jacobs Creek Down Under, the Aussies were phenomenal. We saw Robbie McEwen out on the course doing some great sprints in his new Australian National Champions jersey. Got a bit of an Australian wave going here, but as well, Stuart O'Grady, always consistent, great to see. And what about Gene Bates? The chance for him maybe to get onto a top professional team.
Well, we'd like to think so. Gene Bates has always ridden well in this race, and he always rides well. He's been a bit unlucky so far, not finding his place on the top team. Australian cycling, as you can see, is in a very, very healthy state, supplying 40 professionals into the European market now over the next 12 months. But watch out for the new man on the block. He'll never forget his first visit to Australia. Hope you've enjoyed the coverage. From Paul Sherwen, I'm Phil Liggett saying goodbye.